the unknown, down the rabbit hole, where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, TGIF. And happy Mother's Day weekend to all the moms or the single dads or the fur baby moms. Happy Mother's Day weekend. I won't see you guys probably over the weekend. I won't be back probably till Monday. So I want to wish you guys a happy Mother's Day before the end of this, where I will probably end up forgetting to do so. So I'm going to say hi to everybody. And Sleuthie's here. She was just like talking my ear off and backstage, so it's totally her fault that I was late. Just joking. Let me say hi to everybody. We'll get started. Today we are talking about the Karen Read trial and recapping and reviewing and commentating on everything from yesterday, day number 8, and today, day number 9. And well, thank God, because I couldn't take another work day this week. I know, like done. So I had said yesterday that if nothing came out in Delphi, I would just do the trial recap today. And if Delphi happened, then I would do Delphi, and then I'd do the trial recap this weekend. So, but I'm bummed. So welcome everybody back to Criminality, or if this is your first time here, welcome to Criminality. What's up, Shaz? Hi, Grin for me. Hi, Susan. Susan's like all over this case. She's like, I've got questions and I need answers. Hi, Queen Elizabeth. What's up, Veronica? Hi, Nancy. Mrs. M was just listening to the last live. Glad you were here. Yeah, it's like boop, boop, boop. It's never ending. Never ending. Hello, Spring. Hello, Spring. Everett-Noga. Bonnie. Shiraz. What's up, Sunshine and Roses? Wally's doing a great job in his assignment. Yeah. I'll tell you guys a funny story, but I'll bring Sleuthie up for my funny story. Well, I have a couple of them. T gonna be like Judge Bev and tell everyone she expects them to be on time and then be 20 minutes late herself. Then try and tell people how she likes that they were on time. I'm going to say that I don't want to do things on a repetitive basis, and then I'm going to allow the exact same testimony for 2 weeks straight. That's what I'm going to do. Hey, Sio Mama. Hi, Sarah. ATS. Hi, honey. All right. Hey, Todd. What's up? Hi, Caitlin. Just stopped by to say hi. I know you don't follow this case too much, but you can binge the playlist if you have time, because I'm telling you right now, it is so worth it. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Nancy. I think the chats are like being taken over, but it's like weird. Like all the Teresas come for Delphi, and then all the Nancys come for Karen Read. It's like there's like a Nancy takeover. What's up, Dizzy? Hi, Cakey. Hi, Simply Belle. What's up, Hammy? All right, let me bring up Sleuthie, and I'll tell you guys my couple funny stories. So she knows one of them. So sometimes like to take like clearer pictures, like for the presentation for you guys. Like I pop over to Law and Crime so I could grab a clearer picture, because I typically am watching with Bob and Jay, and they have a lot of fun stuff on the screen. So it's harder to like capture like what's inside of, to get a good picture of who's testifying. So I'll pop over to Law and Crime and whatnot. And yesterday I went over to Court TV. I think I was listening to the recap over there, and they were talking about something that we're going to talk about today. But it was the story about how John yelled at one of the Albert kids to get off of his lawn. And so I made a comment in the chat just because that's where I am. So I'm just like, I'm going to comment. I'm like, don't forget that, like, it obviously bothered John. Well, I didn't say this part. I just said, don't forget that John put up a fence after one of the Albert kids had gone over his yard, like gone over his lawn. And so this lady, I was like, she's obviously just used to just being in like an argumentative mode. And I'm just like, I'm not. I'm like literally here chilling, just, grabbing whatever. And she goes, criminality, do your research. He didn't put up the fence until later. What did she call me? A dimwad or something like that? And I was like,
dimwad or dingbat.
It was something dumb. And I was like, you do realize you literally just said the same exact thing that I said. Just like reworded it and then like tried to call names. I was like, he put the fence up after. My words was after, and then hers is later. And I'm like, okay, so I guess that what? She's
Don't
like,
you feel like that's?
Don't you feel like
that's many of the arguments around here? Is like this. We're arguing about the same thing. Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't say exactly the wording you wanted me to use, so I'm like, oh, okay. But then the stream ended, so we never got to finish our conversation.
She's gonna hunt you down. She will find you on YouTube.
She probably will. She might be in here. Maureen, if you're here, just hello.
Welcome, dingbat.
Welcome, dingbat or dimwad or whatever the hell she called me. I was like, what the hell's wrong with you? I literally said exactly what you said, you fucking idiot. So today I went over to grab a picture from Law and Crime on, I think it was when Brian Albert took the stand. So I went to go like just grab a screen grab of it, and Grant was in there. So they were on lunch break, and he was in the Law and Crime thing, and he was just going off like on Turtle Boy.
Oh my God.
In the Law and Crime chat. And he was like, I just loved it when he said something. I probably should have screenshotted this, but he's so stupid. He's like, I just loved it when like Turtle Boy's attorney didn't know that the AP had to be served. Like, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, they didn't care. So I responded. I was like, they didn't care that they served the AP, the Associated Press. They cared that they weren't served until the attorney was there on an unrelated matter. And he's like, they don't have to serve him, blah, 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 and starts going off. I'm like, well, if they didn't have to serve him, then why did they? So your point isn't taken. Like, if what you're trying to say is true, then there was no point to serve him ever.
What kills me about him is, well, everything. But when he calls like all the other reporters his colleagues, I just die laughing because I'm like, sir, like you call these people your colleagues and they literally, nobody responds, nobody laughs. Hardly anybody pays attention to you. And then did you see the video that I shared of him asking Yannetti questions?
Yes, and then Yannetti says, I only talk to the press.
Sir, I only speak to the press. I'm sorry.
I thought that was fucking great. I was just like, you know how I feel about like these like know-it-all grown-ass men who just fucking act like crybabies? I can't stand it.
I forget what Deeds called it.
Somewhere.
A courteous, what did she called it, like a courteous trashing or something. I don't remember when we were talking about that Bedero lawyer or something. But I want to say, so I see Susan everywhere.
Hell yeah, literally. She's all up on this case. She's like, all right, I'm going to finish. She tells me, she's like, I'm going to finish Karen Reed. She's like, so make sure that your live is like after Karen Reed, so then I can go do Delphi. And she's like, I got to switch over. And then next morning, right back in it, like we're back to Karen Reed. And I'm like, we're going with the flow together.
Yeah, like she's like, we have like full blown conversations in the chat of like everywhere. And it was so funny because like me and Bob had a tiny disagreement today.
I was listening
about witnesses and things. And when he came back from break, his computer wasn't working. And the first thing out of like her mouth was, she typed in there, she was like, who all thinks that Sleuthy messed with Bob's computer because he challenged her earlier or something like that. And I just started laughing. I put popcorn in the chat.
Hell
And
yeah.
I said, oh my gosh, it's almost like somebody sabotaged his link or something. Like he had to leave and then come back.
Is that when
Oh
Allie
no, we're
came
not
in?
letting that go. I
Oh, no, we're
cannot
not letting
believe
it
that
go.
happened.
I have it. It's in the spreadsheet. Don't you worry. It's in
I
here. I've got
was
it.
mortified for her. And I felt like if there was ever a day, and I'm glad it happened before, like I almost want to say that the reason that Turtle Boy got the boot was
It's
because she
because of
said
that.
bukkake.
That's literally what I thought. Because
I think it is.
if we talk about the list that she goes over at the end of exactly like who he's not supposed to be in the courtroom with, she says Chris Albert. Well, Chris was yesterday and he wasn't there. And so it was like he just like makes this list, and I'm like, I swear it was like something happened with the whole. They knew exactly, because I feel like they watch him like a hawk, and they knew exactly why she said what she said.
As soon as I heard it, I knew where it came from. And I think
On the
that
record, she did.
she probably also was worried that the defense was going to call them as well, because they could still come up again. But then again, she's not really making them stay sequestered, so
No,
I don't really know.
I don't think they even want to be there. Hey, Erica. So we're kind of just skipping all over with just some regular old commentary first off, but so right now we're talking about today when Julie Albert was on the stand, and Yari, I call him Buchnick, but that's obviously not how you say it, because then you got Lolly saying it a different way, but she called him Trooper Bukkake
Twice.
And as Jay said, don't go look it up, but if you don't know what it is, you should probably look it up, because that's actually what makes it the funnier version of why she called him that. But it's what Turtle Boy calls him. And so it was apparent that she knows exactly what Turtle Boy says, and that they pay attention to what Turtle Boy says, because now she says the exact same thing on the stand, on the record.
I want to know if it's going to be spelled that way in the transcript. Or if she'll correct it. You think she'll correct it, or she'll type it? When I put it in my spreadsheet, I'm going to be writing it out exactly how she said it.
It's obviously pronounced that way. She said it with her chest. She did. She was adamant that was his name. You think afterwards she was just like
Mortified?
Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Like, I can't even show my face.
Yeah, because then who was it? Brian Albert that brought him up again? He was like, I don't know his last name. His first name is Yuri.
Yeah. He wasn't even gonna go there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was
embarrassing. So bad. I feel like even if that was his last name, if I said that word like in my head, I would be like,
I would know.
Be it. There's no way that's it.
I wanted to share the story with my mom, but then I was afraid she wouldn't know what it meant, and I would have to explain it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Why the fuck does the man go by Turtle Boy? It kills me. I don't know his origin story. I don't, but I know he's written for a really long time. I don't know the origin story of how it became a turtle. Do you know that? Probably tweet him and ask him.
Not really. It has something. I know it has something to do with a turtle statue somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Thank you, Erica, and thank you, Grin, for me. I know I saw yours up there. I typed it in chat, but I don't know if you saw it. Something about a statue. Lone Pony said. Where is a statue in the town? There is a statue in the town that he grew up in. Okay. There's a statue of a boy and a turtle. Snappy Dragon said I thought I knew what bukkake meant, but I didn't. Well, here's the thing, is he should be irrelevant during this trial. They even all agreed upon the fact that he would be irrelevant during the trial. And then Lolly has to go and make him relevant. So as irritating as it is that they had the ability to kick out somebody who was there, whether you like him or not, he was there as a legitimate, he had his press pass. He was there as a legitimate, journalist. And but I understand why she did it, because she's like, I got to get this fucking trial going. I don't have time to argue these semantics, but I don't
But
know.
if she's worried about speeding stuff up, then she should stop. She should just stop Lowy from everything he's doing.
I'm hoping that at the end of today, with her commentary about that she will, because she was just like, yeah, no, but then she's like, we're gonna get the trial, but we are getting it going.
She has literally said that before. And I couldn't believe when she said it at the end of today, after she literally let him drone on, showing the same pictures over and over again for an hour.
Oh, that was a ridiculous amount. White Point.
And then looked at the defense.
Boy writing and Turtle, he used to be anonymous, so nobody knew who Turtle Boy was. Oh, so that was the name that he went by, was Turtle Boy. See, I didn't know any of that. Hi, Allie. They're clearly abusing the legal system to stomp on his First Amendment rights, and they keep getting dismissed.
Yeah, Pete Tragos, he's leaning that way in terms of, so like, he doesn't know everything, but he was talking about that earlier, and he's like, I'm just, if you're looking at like the way that Lank handled the guys that were in a fight with Chris Albert, it's not a far stretch to see them like essentially misusing their power and using their power as police and charging people as an attempt to get them to like do what they want, which could be this. He's like, I don't know. But it just, like, for instance, if it got dismissed at some point, like, it's just interesting that it keeps dragging on. Like, discovery hasn't been turned over. It's been due. It just seems like it's dragging on purpose just to get through the trial. And then it'll probably be dismissed. Do you know what I mean?
I almost feel like he's a Westerman.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all just for the show of the trial.
That's crazy.
So I'll say this before we get too far into like going over actual testimony from each person. What I do, we just talked about it.
Oh my God.
We haven't actually talked about it in the notes yet. We were just talking about it for funsies. Oh God. He's like, don't Google it. But everybody goes to Google it. And
Kyra
then his
said
mom
she wanted
showed up
to
in chat. Jay's mom showed up in chat.
She did, and I was thankful at the end because I felt secondhand embarrassment for him once she popped up, and I was like, "Oh no, nobody say it."
The only positive is like my mother would have no idea what the hell that was.
But
and my
like,
mother's even at the age where she doesn't even understand Google at this point. So I think
that's
I
good.
would think, but
that's good because, like Kyra said, like you don't want to have to explain it to her if she doesn't know what it is.
Bob's such a narc. Jay's mom shows up and he's like, your son was talking about Bukaki. Fucking Bob.
Oh my God, you're gonna get a call later tonight.
So I totally had something I wanted to say before we got started on the testimony. Now I don't know what I was even gonna say. Son of a bitch. We went back to Bukaki and my whole brain just took a shit. Damn it. All right. Well, whatever it was, it'll come to me at some point. Marshall said I had to Google it. Chase laughed, made me look up. He was like a junior high kid. It was funny. I see, Dob. I'm very happy you're doing Karen Reed tonight. Just got into it a few days ago and have been engrossed. I'm telling you, every live I have done on this, I cannot seem to keep it very short. The first one was like 8.5 hours. It was the longest live I've ever done, ever. And then I think the next one was like 4 hours, the next one was like 6 hours, and the next one was 4 hours. But we only have 2 days to go through. So
we went through a whole week. We went through the whole first week of trial, summarizing
6.5 hours.
In less time than it took us to tell you the backstory of what all has happened.
Right. The other story I was going to tell you, this isn't what I wanted to say before we got on this, but the other story I was going to tell you was during, I think it was the direct of Nicole Albert. So when I come, I think I've told you guys this before, like when I wake up in the morning, the trial's already started. So like I'm trying to get everybody ready for school and get everybody out the door. And then, so I turn it on like on my way home on like 2 times speed so I can catch up. But then I can't take notes because I'm driving still. So when I get home, I have to kind of like even replay part of that at some point. And I was like, during the direct, I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep. Of Nicole, I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep. And so I kept putting my head down on my desk, and I was like, no, don't do it. Don't put your head down. And so I'm like listening, and so my husband comes in and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. I'm just resting. And he was like, why? Like you have like a red thing on your face, like probably from like my ring or whatever the hell I was laying on. And so I'm like, no, I just closed my eyes for a minute. I'm just kind of tired. And he's like, oh, okay. And then so he leaves the room, and I go back to watch the trial. And I'm like, well, I don't remember this happening. I'm gonna have to rewind. And I ended up having to rewind. It was like 30 minutes that I
Lally
had
is
to
literally
rewind.
that
I was like,
boring.
well, I don't. I guess I actually, I literally, like a child with my head down on my desk, went to sleep.
He asked literally the last, 4 witnesses all the same questions. None of them, like, okay, I'm lying. Maybe not none of them, but a good 99 100ths of them had nothing to do with Karen Reed. It was all the third party stuff. Like, he's spending more time. Like, if
That's
I
my
was the
comment.
jury, yeah.
That's the comment I was going to make before we went to the slides. Say it, because that's literally what I'm thinking. Just put it out there.
What did the jury, what?
That freaking Lolly is spending more time
Oh, yeah.
defending his witnesses against the third-party defense instead of using his witnesses to prove that Karen Reed did it. He is on the defense.
He is. And all those
In this
witnesses don't even
game,
really
or whatever you
do
want to call it.
nothing
Not
for his
game is another word,
case.
but
Like, what do those witnesses really do for his case other than they're all willing to get up and say, he was never in here?
No, he's spending more time defending these people against the third party guilt. That's the entire part of his. That's everything that we're seeing is him defending these people. So it's like he now became a defense attorney, and the defense team is now like the Commonwealth, even though they're not even presenting any evidence yet. They haven't even done anything. But Lolly spends so much time. He's like, so let's talk about your dog, and let's talk about this, like everything to do with what the defense's theory is. That's what he's spending so much time on, and it's such a fucking waste.
But he missed stuff. Like he'll ask them if them moving has anything to do with John O'Keefe's death, but then he doesn't ask them when they listed their house for sale.
No.
Or, they talk about the dog and does that have anything to do with it, but then doesn't say when they gave the dog away.
No. So he talks about the incident happened in May, and then she just says after that we looked to rehome her, but doesn't actually say when they gave her away. Nobody did.
I find it interesting that he clearly, and I don't know if it almost seemed like Lally knew that she told him, but that he didn't tell them, because he started objecting as soon as they asked if she had provided that information to the Commonwealth. And when she was like, yeah, like I get, like, she was very like hesitant, like, I'm pretty sure I did, you know what I mean? Like, everybody knows that they were after your dog's records. And so
she slipped up today because she was like, we gave them to Lolly, and she's Elizabeth Little's like, you did?
Yep.
We did. He's like, objection. Can we have a sidebar, please?
Yep. And then she had no more questions.
Oh,
because they fought the records. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They didn't want them to know where she was. They didn't want them to go test her for anything. Does Lolly have a sister, and has anyone offered to buy her any gifts? What if the prosecution are creating an artificial reverse? The more they talk about the Alberts, and it's not clear it was them, the easier it will be to conclude it had to have been Karen Reed. That's an interesting thought. I am curious if they would think to do that.
Lally is way too dumb.
Yeah, that's my concern, is like, would he actually think to do that? To go, let's talk about everything now. For me, I just think, like, Sleuthie's going to love this terminology. If you've never heard of this case and you're sitting there on the jury, are you not confused I mean, most people watching the trial know a lot of it. I'm trying to not use the same words, Luthi, so you don't fuck with my computer.
The audacity of that man.
I know, but I'm just thinking, like, if you're sitting there on the jury and you're just listening to what we've heard in this last 2 weeks, I can't imagine like what you'd be thinking. Like, if you don't know any of the history of the case, this is all you know, and all you keep hearing is about some dog named Chloe, and you're like, and everybody seems to care about this Colin kid. It's almost like you're drawing so much attention to them that now they're curious and they want to know more. So the defense will be able to fill in those gaps and answer the questions for the jury. That's kind of how I see it, but I know like not everybody processes it that way. So I'm just very curious, like, how would somebody who knows nothing be perceiving all of this testimony? That just seems redundant, repetitive, same word. I know, that's why I did it. Bob's current theory is it's a bizarre accident. And that's been your theory all the whole time. I am not sold on either one. I'm not sold on either one. I am waiting for the accident reconstruction people to tell me how John's body got to where it was, because that makes no sense to me. And I'm waiting for somebody to try to explain how her car made those injuries. But I'm also not sold that he went in the house, he was there for literally a couple of minutes, and they beat the shit out of him and put him outside. Not quite there yet either. Or they beat the shit out of him and left him in the basement and brought him outside later. Not there yet either. So
why hasn't he put on the medical examiner? Like, after the first responders, before you started putting all these lay people, because like this is what you're putting all these lay people on, right? And they're boring as hell, except for the cross, for most of them. They're all saying the same thing. He's asking the same questions. And then you're going to put on expert witnesses who are spouting off data and technical terms and stuff. Like, that stuff's hard for them to digest in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure like what you're doing. So if you did say his brother and sister-in-law, then all the first responders, why not then do the medical examiner, so that in their mind, before you start getting into like the officers and seeing about how they, the taillight pieces that they found and this and that, like you'd be more planting a seed that those things are related to his injuries than waiting all this time and then boring them to death with that kind of stuff. And I just think that at this point, we're now, what, 3 weeks in? Or 2 weeks? We're many, many days in. All the days are running together.
We're covering day 8 and day 9 right now.
Yeah, and you still haven't even shown that John O'Keefe was hit by a car. And so I wonder if the reason is because, number one, when the medical examiner gets on the stand, she's going to have to say that she was not able to determine what caused or the manner of his death, right? And the cause of death is not related to anything that has to do with the vehicle. So they're going to say, he's going to say, would these be consistent with potentially being hit by a car or sideswiped by a car? And she might say yes. But then the defense gets up there and says, is it also consistent with, falling and hitting your head on a what is that thing called? The fire hydrant, or a curb, or somebody hitting you one time in the back of the head with a bat? Are all those things consistent with his injuries also? And they say, yeah. And then then what?
Well, wouldn't it be crazy if the defense just comes out and doesn't even use the whole third party part? They just go like an alternate route like that.
That would be hilarious.
I don't know if they legally could, but I'd be like, oh, Lolly just put all these people on blast.
I mean, they could do whatever they want.
I think Colin sucker punched John, and John hit him in the back, and then the fight broke out, and the dog attacked. Brian Albert said Karen Reed and John O'Keefe. Yeah, I know, I caught that too. He said, you know how I am with those stupid little semantics on words. He said that
Well,
Karen
they're
Reed
very particular
and
about semantics
John
also.
O'Keefe, and John O'Keefe never came into his house. Not Karen Reed or John O'Keefe. I
But
know.
what's crazy to me, how can they say that if they also like weren't paying attention at all? Like at one point, Nicole Albert didn't know where her husband was with Brian Higgins. And, Brian Albert, when he gets there, like he goes upstairs and he's either taking a piss or going to, number 2. Like, how long was he in the bathroom for before he let the
Right.
dog out? You know what I'm saying? How do they know he never walked in?
I don't know. Well, how do they know that? Like they're saying, like, how do we know that something? If Colin's leaving at the same time they're arriving, could there have been something outside? I don't know if there's any animosity between the two. They didn't prove that to me. If I was a juror yet, I would not think that there's any animosity yet.
Well,
but I don't know if the defense is going to bring up the fact that there was the phone calls about what didn't John O'Keefe at some point, or was this just rumored, call and talk about that there was like a kid smoking weed or something like that?
A what?
Like a kid smoking weed?
Yeah, well, so
am I making that up?
Well, but they can't just like bring like, okay, so John O'Keefe's not here, so they'd have to talk to or call the person who he's having the conversation with. So if the Commonwealth hasn't called that person yet, then they have to find a way to get it in. So like his conversations with Kevin Albert, if that's who he talked about it with, Kevin Albert has to be on the stand. One thing I do find interesting is when they were talking about him going and meeting them, did you find it interesting that he said that his text back, he wanted to know if Kevin Albert was there?
No, when did he say that?
I want to say it was Chris.
I'm moving it down where my feet are.
Where
I
am
don't
I
think I wrote down asking about Kevin. I must have missed it.
I'm cutting right where my fingers are.
Oh, well, you got to move your fingers.
Do you remember where?
Yes, I remember. Let me get the scissors.
I use it on my finger.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You keep cutting these pipe cleaners. Here?
Yeah.
Oh.
And wanted to know if Kevin was there. If Kevin was there when?
At the waterfall. He wanted to know if Kevin Albert was there. He was not.
Right.
Why was he asking, number one? Number two, did he not have a way to just ask Kevin Albert that? Because they do have text messages. They were printed out and turned over in discovery. And number three, did he only go there because Kevin Albert wasn't there? And if so, number four, why is he avoiding him?
Yeah, if he doesn't want to go there. Or was he just curious if his other brother was there?
I don't know.
It is interesting. I didn't catch that. All right, so let's talk about Chris. Let's go into Chris's testimony. Because I know there's some people who don't watch the trial at all, so like everything that we've just said is like it means nothing to them. And some of it is just a recap for anybody who does. Kevin does drive a Ford Edge. Brian drives a Ford Edge, and Colin drives a Ford Edge.
That was a really good part of Nicole's cross, but we'll wait.
It really was. Okay, I'm gonna say something that's gonna probably sound mean. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So I was telling you guys at the beginning of this live, like I go and I take like a screen capture. I try to pause it somewhere that they look kind of just like normal, and I take a screen capture to put into the presentation. I couldn't get one that works really well for her.
I have
she kept making
no doubt.
so many faces.
When she got up there, first of all,
every pause was ridiculous.
Yeah, she looked totally like, I think that was when me and Bob started arguing because he was saying like that she seemed credible or whatever the words were. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? First of all, there were moments like when she was obvious, like, okay, because I can really get into all of this because how that ended and the whole denial of ever making the phone calls or picking up the phone calls was like really bizarre to me to be arguing that when we're looking at data from the phone that called you that specifies when a call is missed versus when it is not answered versus when it is answered. So I think to a degree, I think at the bare minimum, Nicole Albert and her husband, Brian, had like a, I'm going to write down like all the things that we're going to say. Like this is what we say. These are the answers to the questions. Some of their answers were the exact same wording of the answers. And it was even worse when Brian would act like he was thinking about what he wanted to say and then spit out exactly what she said.
He's like, what? Wait, what did we say we were going to say here? What was our answer?
Yeah. It was
and
odd.
I gave him a little bit of grace because, like my husband and I have been together for 17 and a half years. There's some things that we would say and it would be the same without even doing it on purpose, just because we just know each other too well. You know what I mean? So I try to give some grace, but then some of the timing, the in between times, like 6:30, and it's like said the exact same way. I'm
exactly.
like, okay. I was like, this is
and both of those were wrong.
At first I was trying to be like, okay. Like somebody on Twitter yesterday was like, how many, and you responded to it because I was going to, that's how I saw you responded to it. But they were like, how many people or how many teen kids do you know that come home and open the door and go kiss their mom goodnight? Yeah. And I was like, both of my nephews are like that with my sister. Both of them are. Now they're in their 20s and they still do the same shit.
Correct.
So I'm like, I do know kids just like that.
Absolutely. My brother, he's a Marine. He's like, I think he was a staff sergeant, and now he just got like another promotion. Like he's very high up in the Marine Corps, and he's like 27 or 28. And if he comes to my mom's for like breaks or whatever, or like after a deployment, and he's staying in the basement, like he will always still go into my mom's room, because otherwise she wakes up in a panic that we're not. I always got in trouble because I never did it right. Like I would walk in and be like, mom, and she'd jump like half out of the bed. She'd be like, you scared me. I'd say, well, I'm home. And then I'd go to bed. Well, then I start, mom. And then you go like, shake her leg a little bit. Well, then that scared her. Like I could never do it right, but my brother somehow could always walk in and it was fine. And she'd give him a kiss and I love you, bub. And then he'd go to bed. You know what I mean? But I scared her every time I got yelled at. I still did it.
What are you doing waking me up? So yeah, I was going to say that. I'm like, so there's certain things like I try to go, okay, I know in my experience in life, this has happened. And other things I'm like, okay, I'm going to give them a little extra grace because I know other people that's happened to or whatever. Then there's just some things that I'm like, I don't know. It just, shit ain't adding up. All right, so let me go through Chris real quick. We'll do his direct because this was yesterday. But for anybody who isn't watching the trial and is just here for the recaps, I want to make sure that you guys don't miss out on certain things that were said by each person. So I'll just read through it as quickly as I can. On direct, Lolly talks to him. He lived in Canton since he was 4. So this will play a lot of the time when you're talking to these, when the civilians are testifying. A lot of it has to do with the insider-outsider thing, because that's kind of the theory, is that Karen was easy to throw under the bus because she's an outsider. She's not from Canton.
I'll tell you one response that was interesting to me was when he was asked, and we can talk about more once you get to it, but when he was asked if someone was his enemy, like, and the response to that, like the reaction to it. Because like, I don't have any enemy. Like if you asked me about if somebody was my enemy, I'd be like, I don't have any enemies. Like I'm a grown ass adult. Like,
Nancy Grace.
Except Nancy Grace, but she is my arch nemesis. And I doubt anybody's asking me that. But see, everybody knows. Like I could never pretend that she's not my arch nemesis. But if you ask me if somebody was my enemy, especially like a real life person that I come in contact with often or that lives in my town, like I would be like, an enemy? What do you mean? Like that's just such a weird word. But he was like, no, like I have enemies and that person ain't one of them. Just weird.
I don't know if I wrote down the enemy comment, but when we're done, you can talk about it too. So, okay, so he talks about that he lived in Canton since he was 4. He lived a couple of houses down from John. But he moved in 2021. His house actually sold, I think it was January 6th of 2022. So right before this all happened. But he still lives in Canton. He's the one who owns the D&E Pizza. I should have probably brought the map up. This might actually be easier for everybody now that we're talking about things that are on here. So he owns the D&E Pizza. He has for 25 years. His wife doesn't work. She helps out with him sometimes. She helps out at the pizza place. There's definitely some commentary on whether this pizza place is any good. And then everybody thought it was quite funny because he doesn't bother to eat there. He leaves and goes over and eats at the waterfall. But I'm like, shit, if you worked there for 25 years, you probably had enough food from there.
I don't know about the pizza, but I heard that the chicken parm is mediocre.
Chicken parm. Chicken parm. All right, let me see. Okay, so I'll take it down to Street View so you guys can see. Come on. Did I hit it too many times? It got mad at me. So just so you guys can kind of see where everything is. This right here is the pizza place. This is his pizza place. This is C.F. McCarthy's that John and Karen were at prior. So they're right next door to each other. And then Waterfall is right down here. Let's see if I can get there. So you guys can see it's very close. There's Waterfall right here.
That takes him 7 minutes?
No, 7 minutes to get home.
No. Oh, maybe he did say 5 minutes. I thought he initially said it takes longer for him to walk from his pizza shop to the
Home.
waterfall than it does to get from the waterfall to his house.
No, I think this is where that whole confusion on, he's like, I don't understand, because he was like, how long would it take you to get from the pizza place to home? And then how long would it take you to get from the waterfall to home? And he was like, it only takes like a couple of minutes to get from here to here. And he's like, no, that's not what I'm asking you. I think there was just some confusion on what he was talking about. But I think it's like 7 minutes, so 2 minutes to here. But if you do map walking from Waterfall to his address, which I'm not going to do on here because I'm not going to dox him. But if you map it, walking, it says 7 minutes. So let's say he was walking fast, like his wife ends up saying, because it was cold out. 5 to 7 would make sense. And
I don't think you should walk faster
if you're cold.
If the wind's blowing and your clothes are wet and I don't know, whatever. He did whatever he said he did.
I mean, either way, it's not going to take that long. And the whole point of it was that he said he was home by 12:10. This was another coincidence on how they testify the same, which in my opinion was actually probably a bad move on Lolly for putting these couples up right back to back. The only one he didn't do that with so far is Carrie and Kurt Roberts, because Carrie hasn't testified yet. But every other couple he puts up back to back. So when their stories don't make sense or don't align, it actually stands out more. I would think separating them would have actually probably been better, because then the little discrepancies wouldn't, or these weird same commentary. Like, they both say he got home at 12:10 a.m. Now, it's wrong. So how are both of them saying the exact same time that is wrong? Like, she should have been like, I don't know, he got home like a quarter after 12:30, like somewhere right there. So that the whole point was showing him at the bar leaving, at Waterfall leaving at 12:13, and then it takes him approximately 7 minutes to get home. So there's no way, if he's getting home at 12:20, he says that he goes in the house, goes straight upstairs, goes to bed, but Colin pops his head in. Colin pops his head in to check on them and let him know he's home, which is a different testimony than what Julie actually testifies to. But he says he fell asleep and that Colin had actually woken him up. So he has no idea, but he says it's about 10 minutes later. So if he actually gets home at 12:20, and then that means that Colin isn't home until after 12:30, which was the original documentation says that Colin was home, 12:15, 12:20? You tell me, Sleuthy, you got the timeline. I don't have it up.
So here's the problem, and I picked up on this actually when I was listening to Julie's testimony, and she mentioned that he was at his friend somebody or other's house.
Right.
And then went to 34 Fairview. And there was that screenshot going around as some type of proof that that was what time he left the Alberts at 34 Fairview. And I'm pretty sure it said like 12:10, like where she said here. And I wondered if we're going to find out, because there was no like context to that. And I almost wonder if that was when he was picked up from whoever his faces is to go to 34 Fairview. Because it doesn't make any sense to me that he would get a ride to 34 Fairview, dropped off just to go in and say happy birthday, then have to get another ride to come back outside and leave. It makes more sense if somebody picked him up from friend's house, brought him to 34 Fairview. We don't want anybody to know that there's an additional person at 34 Fairview, and they wait for him outside or go inside with him to say happy birthday and then come back out and then they leave together. You see what I'm saying?
Right. But we don't know how long he was actually at 34 Fairview. Because she goes home around 11. And he's not there, and she says she does know where he is and that he went to his friends and that he went to his cousins. So how long was he actually at 34 Fairview? Did he go there for like an hour and a half? Because remember, Julie and Nicole go to the waterfall earlier. So I'm wondering if like he was just at his friends when she left, and then so how long was he actually at 34 Fairview? We don't know that yet, right?
They make it like he literally like was going home, but decided to stop in and say happy birthday. But then for whatever reason, let his ride leave and then called for a different ride. Like instead of asking Ryan Nagel to drive him home, or well, originally it was said that it's not been said at the trial yet. I'm sure come up, but actually I think they did confront Nicole about it, saying that Caitlin left at 12:15 because Tristan came to pick her up. Like if that were true and Colin left at 12:15, you could have got a ride home with them. But then we find out that it was 2:00 when she finally got picked up. But
Julie Nagel?
No, Caitlin.
Oh, Caitlin, yeah.
So I just don't understand what the purpose would be to get a ride, unless it's like an Uber to drop you off at 34.
No, because we know that he calls somebody. We know that he calls somebody. And I should just pull up your. Let me just pull it up because I don't have the timeline right now. It's like he calls somebody at what 12:33. I don't want to say the wrong.
That was Erin Beatty, and she did not answer.
But isn't he calling her for a ride?
I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
I think she's on the witness list.
Is she? Hold on, I have it up. I'll grab it. I didn't mark off the people from today anyway.
I want to say she's on the defense witness list.
Look at this giant monster that I made with 2 heads.
Wow.
It is giant compared to you.
It is giant compared to me.
And I even made him feet.
And you put your new slippers on him?
Yeah, and these are even tentacles.
Wow.
And his head, well, he doesn't even have a head. I didn't make him.
Ryan Nagel, Tristan Morris, Caitlin Albert, Gretchen Boss. On the defense, you say? I don't see her on any.
Titan.
Do you see Tom Beatty?
Mommy.
I don't see any Beatties.
Where did I see it? Now I gotta go look.
This has been sitting overnight.
Okay. Well, maybe there's another list.
Fell out.
No.
Well, theirs is like not in like a good order. So hold on, let me just go back and just double check she's not on theirs again. McCabe's. I don't see her on here. Do I have an outdated list?
Are you using mine? If you are, I don't think it's
I have one
outdated.
that I downloaded a while ago, so I don't know. I don't even know when I downloaded it. So no, this isn't from your timeline. This is my.
Oh, no beaties, they said. I must have imagined it, but I mean, regardless, they've got Colin on there, so he can testify to whether he called her or not.
Mommy.
That's true.
I could have swore.
Mommy.
This trial is going to take months. Well, yeah, they have it scheduled for 8 weeks, so definitely going to take months. I don't understand how they can all provide one statement and say otherwise at trial and not get in trouble. Well, because they'll be like, your memory isn't the same now as it was then, so if people make mistakes. How much longer do I think this trial will be? I think it'll probably go for at least another 5 weeks minimum, if it doesn't go the full 8. I think we have another 5 weeks. The way that Lolly's going, he's taken forever. And then they only have half days. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's think about it this way, too. They only have half days on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then for Memorial Week, there's no court Monday. Did she end up taking away Tuesday, too, or no? Because I couldn't really tell at the end if she ended up canceling Tuesday. They have court Tuesday, and then no court Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's a whole week that there's only one day. But I wasn't sure at the end. I heard somebody mentioning something about Tuesday, and I was like, I don't know. It's the only day of Memorial Week that there is. So that's that's another delay. Okay, let me get rid of this. Okay. I'll take this. I'll put this down. We'll bring it back up when we get further. So if there's only court on that Tuesday, is she really going to have them come in for a half a day? It's only a half a day on Tuesday, so they're going to come in for a half a day?
I think she said she was going to make it a full day.
Oh, okay. Well, isn't there a reason there's only half days on Tuesdays and Thursdays? That week just doesn't have that reason?
I guess not. I don't know. That's hard to understand.
Yeah, I don't know. Her scheduling just throws me off. I'm like, I don't even know where the hell I'm at anymore. Okay, so he talks about
I ask every day if there's court today, and if so, how many hours?
I know.
Because I never know every day.
I'm like, what am I in for today? Sounds like they're repeating the same story, but they get caught. Okay, so he talks about the family tree and the brothers. I thought there was 5 brothers. There's apparently 6 brothers. No, yeah. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We forgot the other K one, and I
1,
forgot
2,
again what his name is.
Keith. I have it written here. Keith, and
yes.
then we also didn't do Brendan. I forgot. I don't think I even knew about Brendan. Keith was the one I was thinking of the other day. So it's Brian, and then his sister Kathleen himself, and then Kevin, Keith, Brendan, and Tim. We've heard about Tim. We've heard about Kevin. We don't ever really talk about Keith, and I've never even heard Brendan's name, so I didn't think he even existed. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, 6 brothers. Poor Kathleen, being the only girl in that bunch. So he says the 28th he was working. John had come into the pizza shop with his nephew. They chatted about plans for the night. And this is the first time that he actually exchanges contact information with John, which I thought was very interesting. Sorry, I had to cough. Hold on. So he ends up texting John when he gets to Waterfall, and he says, "Hey, we're at Waterfall, come on over." Which for a long time, up until quite recently, I always thought that was Julie that had texted John, but apparently it wasn't. Maybe we just assumed that because we knew that Julie and John had communicated prior. I don't know. I lost my spot because I was looking at something else. He said that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins arrived after he did, and then John and Karen arrived after they did. So that's kind of the order of how everybody showed up there. There was some talk about going back to his place after drinking and making some pizzas. And is Monday live? Did anyone pay attention? Is Monday live? Yeah, they have court Monday. This coming Monday? Yes. Julie did text him too. Maybe they both did. Is that what it was, Dizzy? I guess I just didn't know that John had until more recently. He said that Karen arrived with a glass in her hand with a clear liquid in it. The only 2 people that have testified to that so far. So that's also another little interesting story between them. that they have, that husband wife have the exact same story about how Karen arrives with a drink in her hand from C.F. McCarthy's. So they're talking about going back to the pizza place. They end up saying that they don't want to do that. Nobody really comes up with an actual reason on why they don't want to do that. And then there's the jokes about how it's because the food is so bad. But I honestly don't know why they didn't do it. And then they say we do end up finding out that why they end up going back to 34 Meadows. 34 Meadows. I don't even know why I put that on here. 34 Fairview. Meadows is not the right one. I will fix that typo. 34 Fairview. So they go back to 34 Fairview because apparently when we hear Nicole's testimony today, she says, well, yeah, it was my son's birthday. And so I was just like, hey, it's a little after midnight. Why doesn't everybody just come by and like wish my son a happy birthday? Kind of makes sense. I could see that out drinking and everybody wants to kind of still hang out. So 34 Fairview was his family home growing up. Take away my typo. And he said that Julie, his wife, had a headache, so she left the bar. He bought a round of fireball shots, apparently scared everybody when he slammed a shot down. He doesn't actually know who took all the shots. He doesn't know who actually drank them. He left around the same time as Karen and John, and he walked home, which is that whole 5 to 7 minute walk we were just talking about. His son, Colin, was at 34 Fairview and came home about 10 minutes after him, and Colin woke him up to say goodnight. That's where he peeks his head in. He just peeks his head in the door. Oh, that was it. He says he didn't. Yeah, he couldn't have pizza because he was on his diet, but then he ate chicken fingers and potato skins, potato wedges or whatever, potato skins. So he says that Colin peeked in the door and woke him up and to tell him goodnight. The next morning, his wife came home. He doesn't really remember exactly if he had, like, how long he'd been awake before she came back home. He does say, and this is something that I think, Sleuthie, you should clip this, how many times they say the word ritual. So he says, like, his wife has a ritual that she does this every year. She takes, like, she takes the donuts to the nephew. That's called a tradition, but to them it's a ritual, and that really caught my attention because then it almost comes back out today again. So his
Does
wife
she always leave it in his car?
Apparently, because that's why she tells him in her testimony. She's like, I told Brian Sr., like, I don't need to come in there. I'm just doing my thing. Like, I don't need to come inside, which I thought was weird. Like, why is she saying, like, I don't need to, like, do that?
But also, like, I don't understand that whole thing at all because there was a blizzard. You wouldn't expect your 23-year-old nephew to be going out in a blizzard. How do you know he would go out to his car to find your donuts, your frozen donuts? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's an odd place to leave. Why would you not just bring it in? Clearly, is it true that the door is locked or unlocked often? Like, why not just go in?
I don't know.
And
Maybe she thought everybody was still sleeping.
I don't know, but she started to say that he told her to come in, and then she said he asked her. That Brian Sr. asked her to come in.
Yeah, he's like, no, you need to come in for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
So the house that's on Meadows isn't the house that his sister and brother-in-law had. That's the house that he lived in with the sister and brother-in-law is the house that he lived by Carrie and what's the firefighter's name? I don't remember his name now.
Whitley.
Whitley? Was it Whitley? So that's that house.
Yeah.
And then he buys this house on Meadows after he already has the kids and they've already passed away.
I think he lived there for 4 years before he died. So how old was Dylan 6 years ago? 10?
Right. And he says that he was 9.
So what's interesting is then it would have had to have happened like as soon as John moved in. So I don't think it would have been that funny.
Well, that's how I think that's how they end up. Well, I think it probably wasn't supposed to be funny. It's kind of how I took it. I think he was serious, but then they all kind of knew each other from the circle because of Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe knew John O'Keefe. And so he says, like, so my wife calls Jen McCabe and Jen McCabe calls John. And then John feels bad, and then he brings it down. He brings down Candy.
And then he puts up a fence.
And then he puts up a fence. You can call me a dingbat all you want to, but he still put up the damn fence. So he obviously had some form of an issue. And it was taunting. And then the photographs, we'll keep going. Okay, so his wife comes back home and tells him what's going on, and they get together and they go back over to his brother Brian's house. So Chris is Brian's brother, the homeowner's brother. And when he gets back there, he says it's that Brian's there, Nicole's there, Brian Higgins is there, Jen and Matt McCabe are also there. He doesn't get interviewed until a few days later. I spelled that wrong. At his condo, which is where he moved. They moved to a condo. They say they downsized. It was easier to afford. Their kids were all getting older. They had 3 boys. Kids are getting older. They didn't need that much room. Didn't really want to take care of all that anymore. So then Cross is Yannetti, and Yannetti gets in there and he's like, hey, your family has a lot of ties to Canton. You're a selectman, even though he wasn't actually elected to selectman until after John's death. Your one bro is a cop over here in Canton. Your other bro is a Boston cop. Your family's got deep roots and ties to this community. Your family's very well known. Your family has a lot of cops that are very close friends. Just suggesting like there's the Alberts mean something in Canton. Like that name means something. They talk about that he sold his house, and they talk about that Brian and Brian Albert also sold 34 Fairview. He sells the house after John's passing, but what the witnesses are trying to do is say, hey, no, they were already in talks about selling the house long before that, so it's not a big deal. Even though they sold it later, they were already talking about it because Chris sold his house. Brian and Nicole are like, our kids are getting older. They're already moving out. We should probably downsize too. So they talk about Proctor being the lead investigator and how he knows Proctor and how he knows Proctor's sister, Courtney. Talks about how he knows Kenny Berkowitz. So Berkowitz was the chief of police at the time, and Chris consistently refers to him as Kenny instead of Ken. That gets brought up like, hey, obviously you guys are close enough for you to be here testifying and calling him Kenny. Their kids played sports together. Berkowitz was at the Selectmen's campaign event, thinks he donated to his campaign, but he doesn't really remember. And then he is shown a picture of Kenny Berkowitz and himself at this campaign function to show that they're close. And then Yannetti tries to drill him about like what his responsibilities as a selectman are. And hey, it's for community safety, and that means that the police department is actually part of what you're supposed to take care of. He says he thinks so. The judge actually starts to question him on it, and he's like, I'm kind of new to it, so I don't know all the things I'm supposed to do yet. Berkowitz has professional and personal ties. They're actually friends, and then they also have the professional tie because Chris's brother and Brian's brother, Kevin, is a police officer in Canton. Talks about that he was friends with Link in childhood. We've talked about this when Link was on the stand, so we did that kind of during that recap. They're not super tight friends, but yes, they are friends, but they knew each other when they were kids. Link testified that they were very close, junior high, high school, and early 20s. So essentially before they became family men. His brother Brian was in the fugitive unit in Boston. Talk a little bit about his TV show that doesn't really get in. Talk about how often the siblings see each other. He tries to downplay it like they don't actually see it. Everybody's relationships with each sibling is different. We typically all see each other on holidays, which makes sense. There's 7 of them, and Yannetti's being very broad when he just says siblings, but he means like this core little Kevin, Brian, Chris circle of siblings that hang out often, barbecue together, party together, go get dinner together. He talks about that. So Colin is his son. Talks about how his son Colin's relationship to Brian, which would be Colin's uncle. Talk about how close they were. He does know who Proctor was when he came to interview him. He didn't have to be introduced to him. He does not consider the Proctors a second family, which is to the point of Michael Proctor's mother made a comment on Facebook that the Alberts were like a second family. And so he said he does not consider the Proctors a second family. The 28th, I really got to go fix my typos when I'm done with this. No wonder, like, I can't read my own shit. 28th was the first exchange of phone info with John. He went to Waterfall at about 9:50. He texted John, "Get over here or I'll fuck up your lawn." I could see that just being, I mean, we joked around about the testimony about when John and his buddy called Kurt Roberts and was like, "Get over here and drink." And he was like, "I don't really want to." And they're like, "Don't be a pussy." Like, I don't know how much of this is like tension. Like, he wouldn't even had to have gone. You know what I mean?
I think some of these people talking to each other are closer than him and John. Like, you didn't just get John's phone number that night, but you're close enough to joke around with him and tell him if he didn't come, you were going to fuck up his lawn.
Right.
And
right.
You have like John's other friend who is like clearly a very good friend and knows his friend John very, very well. Well enough to where he was there to pick up his child because he knew John was like missing, and shoveled the snow away from his garage door because he knew John would not like snow getting inside the garage and the door was up.
He knew how particular he was about how he kept things.
Like, he's a friend that wouldn't like purposely throw snow in the garage because it like would be funny because John's OCD. You know what I mean?
Right. This is the kind of friend who would throw the snow in the garage.
Right. Absolutely. Like, I don't think he's like if my friends like did like, if you know anything about that kind of stuff and like how particular you could be, like, it really causes high levels of anxiety when things are out of place the way that you need them to be. And so, like, I just wouldn't have any friends that would do that to me on purpose because it's not funny. It causes anxiety. You know what I mean?
At this age, I would agree. And so obviously they're older, so I think so. When I was younger, I would do all kinds of shit to irritate people.
Yeah, but they're not.
I would have been the friend that threw the snow in there knowing it would piss you off. Now that I'm older and I have my own weird quirks, like, I would be like, no, don't do it. So he texts John, "Get over here, I'll fuck up your lawn." And then he's like, they laughed about it, John laughed about it, blah, blah, blah. He did not really pay much attention to Karen. He did not notice that she was intoxicated. He did not notice that there was any tension. He also didn't notice that they were lovey-dovey. He just says, like, I really didn't pay attention to them.
But he was paying enough attention to be like one of only two people that noticed that she carried a drink inside in her jacket.
Correct. But doesn't know anything else, didn't really pay any other attention to them. So this is when they start talking about, we already kind of went over this, they talk about that they show him the video, he actually leaves the bar at 12:13. This is after he testified that he got home at 10 after 12. It's approximately a 7-minute walk to his house. Colin opened the bedroom door to tell his parents he was home at night. This is the comments about Nebercracker from Monster House. And it's like this grouchy old man who yells at everybody to get off my lawn. And so that's why they send him this lawn comment, "I'll fuck up your lawn." And so they go back and forth about what this Nebercracker means. Chris wants to try to explain it, and Yanetti's like, no, just answer my questions. Lolly will come back up here and he'll take care of whatever you want to talk about. But right now you're just going to answer my questions. He asked him if that's the name that Julie has in her phone for John O'Keefe is Mr. Nebercracker. So they go through and Yanetti's like listing all the things that we've heard for a long time that supposedly John didn't like Colin Albert for. Like, he was, he thought Colin Albert was like this punk kid who, threw beer cans in his lawn and, did all kinds of stuff that just irritated him. And Chris just keeps saying, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. No, that's not true. He wants to tell the story once again. He's like, no, you can do that. You can do that later. So he said him and his wife sent John photos of themselves on John's lawn, which I have those. Let me pull them up real quick. So they were taking care of John's house or watching over it while John was out of town. And when John was gone, they took a couple of photos of them playing around on his lawn and text them to him. which supposedly they say John thought was funny. I don't know. So this is Chris and his wife Julie. So like there's this whole running joke about the lawn. Never told Proctor that Colin was at Brian's on the 28th. This is a running question from the defense because they didn't know that Colin was even at 34 Fairview until, what was it, like a year later? Was it almost a year later? Sleuthy, how long was it? Or somebody in chat, how long was it? It was a long time because Colin's name doesn't show up in any of the reports, and because nobody tells anybody that Colin was even at 34 Fairview that night. Hey, Chevy. Chris doesn't take notes at meetings. Maybe Karen wanted to go to Waterfall because her friend Jen was there and there was a band. John probably would have just stayed where they were. Can't see him liking the company of the Alberts. Well, he's the one. Karen wasn't with them when he's talking to Chris at the pizza shop about what they were doing that night and exchanging numbers. Yeah, and there is. And when Sleuthy's unmute, she can tell us more about that. I know she's looked at that, but it was 20 years ago. But did they tell Proctor, and Proctor doesn't tell anyone? Their answers are pretty consistent with the I don't remember. I don't remember. Karen wasn't friends with Jen. She was, well, they were more friendly. They knew each other better than anybody else knew Karen there. But Jen was friends with John O'Keefe.
Did you say John McCain?
I said McCabe. I called him John McCabe. Jen McCabe, John McCabe. I renamed him. So on redirect, he talks about that he was not a selectman in 2022, and the pick of Berkowitz was after John's death, the one with him and Kenny at the campaign. He sold his house in 2021 and discussed it with Brian Albert. That's why Brian Albert decided to sell his house. He did not observe any injuries on Colin. This will come up later because there are photos of Colin shortly after the 28th where his hands have are scuffed up. So this is, I think, going to be a bigger deal later. The Nevercracker joke was actually about his youngest son, Dylan, who, when John had moved in, Dylan walked across the lawn. John yelled at him, "Hey, get off my lawn." Dylan comes home very upset and tells his parents, and then Julie calls Jen McCabe because she knows Jen knows John. Jen McCabe then tells John, "Hey, that was,
If my kid
my
comes
friend's
home,
kid."
if my kid comes home crying and really upset because you scared him or hurt his feelings, I hate you. I'm just saying. Like, I'll always hate
Right.
you. You know what I mean? Like, you can bring candy. We're throwing it away.
Right.
Like, don't do, I tell him, like, I don't know, but I'm a mama bear. It's probably a little different than, you know what I mean? Than dad's. But if my kid comes home crying saying that he was walking home and some old man yelled at him.
You don't think that you'd go down there as the mom yourself? You think you'd call your friend, Jen McCabe, and have her take care of it?
I would be walking there myself. And,
It's
I'm
two
really
doors
grateful.
down.
Yeah, I'm really grateful because my kid tells me stories the way that I always told my mom stories. So, like, I was telling my mom about how he does it. And she's like, "Oh my God, Nicole, that's like the exact same thing you used to do to me." So, like, my mom always knew when something was serious or when it wasn't, because, like, when I would tell her the story, I would say it exactly how you said it. So, like, if you say to me, like recently, my kid got in trouble because his Velcro on his sneakers was like tearing up the carpet in the classroom.
Aww.
I was able to tell, yeah. So we had to immediately go out and buy shoes. Didn't have Velcro, but also didn't have ties. I'm like, is this for real? Like, don't all kids have Velcro sneakers? And so we bought all new shoes because he was so beside himself that he got, quote, in trouble for wearing the Velcro sneakers. But the way he told me she said it didn't make, like, I would have been down at the school. You know what I mean? If he got yelled at for having the Velcro sneakers.
Yeah, you're like,
I was like,
I'll handle this. Don't you worry.
Yeah, but I was like, dude, it's fine. Like, we'll just go buy a bunch of new shoes. Like, it's fine. But there was like another, like if you say to him, stop doing that, like he'll come home and he'll say, Mommy, she said, stop doing that. And like you're in trouble. You know what I mean?
Not his fault, Sleuthy. It's not his fault.
He's me.
All right, so that's essentially really it for Chris. For me, listening to just him wasn't really an issue. I think more of the issue comes from things he says versus things his wife says.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Like if he just testified all by himself and that was it, and this is why I said I think it was actually a bad move for Lolly to put them back to back, because their testimony is so fresh in the jury's mind that way. So they can catch those little things that are either exactly identical, which shouldn't be because they're wrong, or if it's, you can tell that it's a false story.
This is exactly my argument with Bob today, is that they're like contradicting each other.
They are. Uh-huh.
And I do not believe that the jury is not catching it, because it's literally happening one after the other. It has nothing to do with me going back to my notes or looking at the spreadsheet, or it's literally just with what these people are saying. And there's certain things that stick out. So something as simple as like a lot of people picked up Lank saying that when he went in there the first time, he never left the foyer. But then when they testified today, when the Alberts testified, they were sitting at the dining room table. You know what I mean?
Right. Just weird little things. And I know that they were in and out of the house a lot, so maybe there's just some lack of memory on who was in the house at which time, but I don't know. All right, so I'm going to play these two clips. So Sleuthy clipped these and posted them on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, this is one contradiction.
This is one contradiction, but I thought it was a pretty interesting one.
Now, with reference to
you hear it?
your son Colin, he came home, you saw him that night, correct?
When he came home?
Yes.
Yeah, he just leaned his head in the door.
And when he leaned his head in the door, did you, similar to what I had asked you about Mr. O'Keefe, did you observe any sort of injuries or anything like that to his face?
No.
Now, with reference to your son Colin, he came home, you saw him that night, correct?
When he came home?
Yes.
Yeah, he just.
How long was it after your husband?
So this is now Chris's wife, Julie, who's testifying about the exact same situation, but a very different memory of it.
Came home that your son Colin.
10 to 15 minutes.
And were you essentially waiting up for him?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Is that sort of common practice?
Yes. I do not go to bed until my kids are home.
And is there another common practice as far as when your kids come home, where do they go when they first come in?
They immediately will always come in the door, maybe grab a water out of the fridge and come upstairs and give me a kiss goodnight and tell me that they're home.
Now, did that happen on this occasion?
Yes. Yes.
And when Colin came into your room and he came upstairs, did you have occasion to observe him as far as talk to him, obviously?
Yes, we talked for a minute. He asked me if I was feeling better. And yeah, we talked for a moment.
And during that conversation that you had with Colin, similar to what I had asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, injuries or anything did you observe on your son Colin?
None.
So that's a problem, right? Because number one, he asked Chris if he noticed any injuries. Well, where was he supposed to notice injuries if all he did was pop his head and he just woke him up?
On his face. You're supposed to notice him on his face.
Well, and number two, did he pop his head in the door, or did he come in and have a conversation? Like, one puts him like at the bed talking to mom.
How did he know that Julie had a headache? How did he know his mom didn't feel good?
I don't know if she must have texted him and said, I'm going home because my head hurts, or she's making up this whole conversation. I'm down for either one being true. For real.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Walked in the bedroom and kissed her versus popped his head in. And that kind of changes. She doesn't talk about that she had a horrible migraine. She just had a headache. She
acts like just a normal headache. And she said she was waiting for medicine to kick in. Well, she'd already been home for like an hour, over an hour. So did you wait to take the med? Like, you would think if it was bad enough for you to be like, I have to leave here, I'm going to go home and try to take some medicine. And, you know what I mean? Why
Right.
didn't you take it when you got home? It should have kicked in by now. And if you also
But yeah,
had
we're talking quarter 20 after 12.
yeah.
And then he doesn't get home for another 10 to 15 minutes. So 12:35, 12:40-ish. And then all of a sudden she took this medicine at 11 o'clock.
And also, like, if I had a really bad headache and like I had a husband, I'd be like, I have a terrible migraine. I have to take my medicine and I have to go to sleep or it's not going to go away. So can you please make sure that Colin gets home, please? You know what I mean?
Cena said in her testimony that she said she had been communicating with her son all day or night. I don't remember that. I don't have that in my notes, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. I think her husband said she went home with a migraine, that she had a migraine, so she left. And then I don't know if on direct she does, if she says migraine and then changes it, but on cross, when she's asked, she says that it was migraine. No, it's just a headache.
Yeah. And like a common theme throughout these two people, these two couples or whatever that I noticed, and I only noticed it because Bob had pointed out, like, when John's friend mentioned about him taking his shoes off at the door and blah, 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 these people did the same thing. Like, he asked Chris about whether he takes his shoes off at the front door. So I think that's all going to come up. He asked Chris on cross about, did you take your shoes off at the front door? And he said, yeah.
Right.
And then Nicole says the same thing, that she goes through the front door and she leaves her shoes at the front door, which a lot of people do. We do it too.
I don't.
I'll be honest, like, I do at my house, but I'm not crazy about. Well, I sort of am crazy about people taking their shoes off at my house, but
has came and it even has the person that made the mail even put their name.
Oh, how cute! Leg?
Yeah.
It's from Leg. Okay, thank you.
Sherry said today she said migraine. I didn't hear that. The only one that stuck out to me was on cross when she said that she was sitting on the side of her bed waiting for the meds to kick in. And he was like, well, yeah, he had a migraine. He probably, you're probably not feeling very well. And she's like, migraine? I had a headache. So I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to see where and who was talking to her when she said migraine. So this is another one. Lolly comes in, says, hey, she's lived in Canton her whole life. This whole insider-outsider thing. Used to live on same street as John. Obviously, same testimony as Chris's because they're husband and wife. Her husband owns D&E Pizza down the street from Waterfall. They go over who was at the Waterfall and when. Same people. I'm not going to repeat it. Karen arrived with a clear drink from another bar. They're the only two that have brought that up so far, that Karen arrived with another drink. She left the bar shortly after Karen and John arrived. Colin wasn't home when she got home. She remembers that John was wearing jeans, a hat, a shirt, and no jacket. But she was only at the bar a short time. When asked if she remembered them arguing or anything along those lines, she said, from the short time I was there, I didn't notice anything. Colin came in and kissed her goodnight to check on how she was feeling. We just talked about this. How did he know she wasn't feeling well? Maybe she did make that comment. Like I talked to my son all throughout the evening. I didn't hear that, so it's not in my notes. This is a big one here for me, and I don't know what happened to make it so they couldn't talk about this on cross. When she wakes up, she says she has a missed call around 5:55 from Jen McCabe. So before trial, there was a pre-trial hearing where they talk about this phone call. And I'm almost positive, and Sleuthy will correct me if I'm wrong, in her initial interviews, she says she got a phone call at 4:55 in the morning, 4:55 a.m. from Jen McCabe, and that's how she knew that something had happened to John. Am I?
No, that's what she said. That's how she knew John was dead. Yeah.
So now during testimony, it's changed to 5:55, and it's just a missed call with no voicemail, and she didn't know anything.
Well, that's what it changed to at the federal grand jury. So I'm assuming that that's why she's then carrying that over to this trial. But I'm surprised they didn't bring it up. Because at the very
That's what I'm
least, it could have been used for, did you actually say this, or did Proctor write it wrong in his report that you said it and you didn't?
Why didn't they bring that up? That's got
I
to,
don't
there's
know.
already have to be something about, there's a reason that that's not brought up, and I don't understand why. And why we're talking about stuff that isn't brought up, because this was a big one for me. I'm like, I waited. When she said it, I was like, okay, they'll get her on cross with it. I don't know why it's not allowed in. I don't know what the agreement with that is, or if they plan on using it with a different witness, like maybe Jen McCabe. I don't know. But it was weird that it wasn't brought up. But the other thing that hasn't been brought up that also is bothering me is why we haven't heard how many drinks that Karen had when she was at CF McCarthy's.
That I do not know.
We have no receipts to show how many drinks she bought. We have the receipts from John O'Keefe at Waterfall. We don't have anything showing how much she actually drank, and that was like a huge part of the state's case, or the Commonwealth's case, was that she had these 9 drinks.
They must, I guess they're going to get it in through Buchanan. I almost said it. But I guess they're going to get it in like through the people, whichever troopers went to go get footage from CF McCarthy's.
Okay.
But if you look at his like statement of facts, and one of the things where it actually breaks it down, like each time that she's seen being handed a drink, it doesn't say she did a shot at blank time, she did a blank at this time, she did another shot at this time. It says she was seen being handed a drink at blank, she was seen being handed another drink at blank, and she poured it into her big glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, they summarized those like 6 or 7 different times by then saying that while she was there, she was given and consumed, 7 drinks or whatever. But I would be really, really interested to see if she's ever seen drinking those like, obviously she wasn't, I don't think she was drinking the shots, because they say that she was pouring them into her tall glass. So
Right.
how do you know she drank them then? Did she drink her whole drink and then leave it on the table empty? You know what I mean?
But we also hear that she, we know that, or we haven't heard it in trial yet, but that she brings over a drink from CF McCarthy's over to Waterfall. We have these two who are saying that she did bring it out. So as soon as they say that, I'm like, there's no drink, because we'd already heard the testimony from the bartender and saw these receipts. This is John's receipt, where he has a Bud Light in a bottle, a Miller Lite lager, and Tito's. That's whose receipt is that?
That's his. He bought broke ass Chris Albert's Miller Lite.
Right. There's no drink on here for Karen.
So he didn't buy her any drinks at Waterfall?
I don't know what is Tito's. I thought that was food.
Oh yeah, that would be Tito's vodka. So one drink.
Tito's vodka?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's that. Thank you for clarifying. I didn't know that was vodka. So I when I initially saw it, I thought it was food. I was like, wait, Tito's is vodka. You guys are like, come on, Teresa, where's your alcoholicness at? I didn't know that. Okay, so that's her one drink. Here's her Tito's, her vodka, $8, which is probably the drink he ends up having at the end. He probably takes her drink because he doesn't want to waste his $8, because
exactly.
he's not drinking out of a cocktail glass. He's drinking out of a beer bottle. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, but now that I know that Tito's is alcohol, tequila for Tito's, I didn't know that.
Oh my God, I just had a terrible thought cross my mind. What
Tito's
if,
or would it be, how do you drink Tito's? Let me see. Go ahead, keep going. I'm going to do some
What
Googling.
if somebody put something in Karen's drink, but he ended up drinking it? And like something happened when he got dropped off.
Interesting.
Because we did see him drink that drink, and it wasn't his drink.
Yeah, it's not his drink.
I don't know, just floating it out there.
So this wouldn't have been a shot. This would have been a drink, right? Like vodka on the rocks, then, because it's a cocktail glass. It can't be. like a vodka and water? Like, what? I don't know what she was drinking. All right, let me see what you guys are thinking. We need the autopsy report. Did anyone else touch that drink? Sometimes bars only charge for the alcohol. Oh, that's true. That is true. You do this better than anyone. He must be talking to you, Sleepy. Some people just take the drink to be sociable. Maybe she was nursing it. Well, that's kind of what I figured when she's bringing over the drink from one to the other. Could be a double vodka. Vodka water with a splash of lime. I need to look
I
at
just
their
sent you a
Facebook.
picture on Messenger of what popped up when I typed in Tito's drink. I don't know. I haven't drank in.
Me either. I don't drink. That's why I didn't even. I thought it was like some type of like appetizer because they were all talking about appetizers.
I sent you a picture and it looks like probably what he was drinking.
I put it in Google too to see, like let's see what a Tito's vodka and water maybe with a lime. That's what I think it is. This is with a lemon. Let me find a better one that kind of matches
so
the glass.
weird. Like the comment to her about "you're coming with me" was weird. Like everything about it was weird, and so I just.
That's a good thought because we know that that's not his drink because he bought he drinks beer and everybody's testified that he has only been drinking beer all night. So him taking a cocktail glass, yeah, him taking a cocktail glass would mean that he took her drink, that she didn't even finish it. Tito's with a, it's hot? Oh, it is? I don't know. Look at me learning new stuff. Didn't they say it had lime in it? Yeah. Uh-huh. So keep thinking, Sleuthy.
I wonder if stuff used for roofies, like the various things, I wonder if that shows up on toxicology reports. Because it leaves your body so fast and like he was laying there for hours.
Would they have even done that? They're looking at a domestic violence situation.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Mail.
Huh. All right, well, that's interesting. Good thinking. Should be a tox report with the autopsy, but some stuff you have to know what to screen for. And I don't know what they actually just automatically include. But like I said, we know he didn't have that drink. That's her drink. But isn't the saying beer before liquor, never been sicker? Liquor before beer, you're in the clear.
Yeah.
So like you drank beer all night and then all of a sudden now drinks a vodka.
Yeah, but I don't know if that counts for just one liquor drink. But maybe it does. I don't know. I drank them all. Didn't matter. I
drank them all. I mixed all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
I got sick. I think no matter which way I mixed it most of the time, which is why I don't drink. I don't like it. I was a bartender 100 fucking years ago, so what do I know? With my notes for Julie, I literally wrote blocked a lot out a couple times. I couldn't listen to it. I love that that's your notes. Yeah,
Mrs. Smith made a good point.
It's not true at all. Hold on. Let me go back up. Mrs. Smith. I thought she was returning the glass to the other bar because of his OCD.
I wonder if they were still open. Because I feel like the Waterfall closed really early for like a bar, but I guess it's more of a restaurant.
No, apparently that's the blue laws in Massachusetts. They have to close.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I know. We were talking about that the other day. They did say it was a lime, so my guess is a double vodka water with a splash of lime and a lime on top. That makes sense. I thought he was returning the glass to the other bar because it was. But if he bought her another vodka there, that means she finished the vodka from C.F. McCarthy's and had gotten a new drink. So the drink he's taking out, he takes a drink of it. We went over that video the other day. He's standing at the high tables, and he takes a drink of the drink and then kind of looks around, and he's like, well, I guess everybody's gone. So and he just carries the drink and just walks out the door. So it would be the drink from there that she never drank because that's why he's taking it with. Perry.
Peter doesn't drink, and he definitely did think it was a cucumber. That was hilarious and adorable.
You thought it was a cucumber? Aw. Liquor before beer, no fear. Beer before liquor, never sicker. Yeah. When the air hits you, that's it. Yep. I don't think guys would back down from shots after drinking beer all night, though. And he just paid $8 for that drink. Hey, Miranda. So he's probably like, oh, hell no, I'm not leaving this behind. She didn't drink it. I'm going to take it with me. Because he was obviously ready to keep drinking. And there is, as somebody who did used to drink a lot, there is that certain point that I know, like, I don't need to drink anymore. And I'm like, where the fuck are we partying? Like, where's the next drink at? Like, I'm ready. I feel like I can just keep going. Like, you hit, like, there's a limit. You're like, okay, this is good. And then when you pass that limit, you're like, just give me everything. So he could have, I don't know how many beers he had. Yeah, you're just like, party, let's go. And then he was like, where are we going next? What's up? He's going to some random house that he's never been to. Where were we at? So she arrived from the bar, she left for calling, can we kiss her night? Let me see. Wakes up, missed call. Okay, the missed call thing. I don't know why that's not testified to or why they didn't come up today, but I'm very curious about that. Like I said, those are the two things I'm really curious why we don't have an answer to them. Is why we don't know how many drinks she had when we already talked to a bartender, and then why we don't know why they don't bring up this 4:55 call that's changed to 5:55. They don't even talk about that she changed it. She has to do her ritual, takes donuts to Brian Jr.'s for his birthday. She goes there around 8:30 in the morning. Brian Sr. says, come inside. She's like, I don't need to come inside. And he's like, no, you need to come inside. Like, why did she even say not to come inside? Like, she didn't need to come inside. It was the weirdest answer to me. When she goes inside, she said that Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Nicole Albert, Jen and Matt McCabe are inside the house. They tell her what's going on, but they're like sitting around the table. She said for like 30 seconds, nobody even says what's happening. And then they're like, something happened to John. And her first response is, John who? I was like, I can kind of get that. People probably know a lot of Johns, but it was like, John who? And they're like, John O'Keefe. And so she leaves, goes home, and gets her husband and comes back. That's pretty much the same. Oh, she does. That's the other thing we learn about Julie, is that Julie knows what everybody in the world drinks. I think so too, Ariel. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm drinking every drink on the table, not finished. She knows exactly what Nicole drinks. She knows what everybody was drinking when they were there. She's paying attention. I don't know. Maybe she just pays a lot of attention because she's also the one who pays attention to the fact that Karen brought a drink over from the other one. I was crying when she called. Oh, it's so bad. All right. We'll go over to Cross then. So February 10th is when she was interviewed by Proctor. Remember, this happened on January 29th. So she's not interviewed until February 10th. She knows Proctor. She's close friends with his sister. She used to babysit Courtney Proctor's kids. Wedding questions, those all get sustained. A lot of these, though, I found interesting because she's like, no, you can do that through another witness, like not through this witness. So she's kind of helping out both sides when they're saying so. Like, she's like, nope, not through this witness. So they ask, like, if her son Colin was the ring bearer at Courtney's wedding, and Judge Bev is like, get it through the other witness, which I'm assuming is going to be either Courtney or Colin. They start talking about whether she's been to the pool at the Proctor's house. And she's like, yeah, I've been there like a dozen or so times. This is interesting. And I want to know your guys' thoughts on this. So there's a hot mic moment. And Yannetti walks over to the table and he says, write that down. Pool photo. I know she's lying. And he either says, I know she's lying about Chris or about this. On the hot mic.
Wait, what? The comment about lying about this?
The hot mic moment with Yannetti when he says, write that down, pool photo. I know she's lying. He either says she's lying about Chris or she's lying about this.
Might have been
What
Chris.
Does he know she's lying
in
about?
The photo too.
Right. Okay. So I have that photo. Let me pull it up. But I don't understand. Is this that photo? I think this is the right one. No, this isn't the right one?
No, it's the one of the pool party at Proctor's
Hold on,
sister where you can see Baldy in the background and you can see Courtney Proctor at the table, and you could see Jennifer McCabe's kid at the table.
Hold on. Let me make sure I saved it. But what is he lying about? Yeah, what is she lying about? Sorry. Jay has this clipped. Let me go look. So, but she says, yes, I have been there like a dozen or so times. So why does he think she's lying? What is she lying about?
Yeah, but what was the question before that? Like, did he ask if her husband went with her, or her kids went with her?
I don't know. Hold on.
Can't remember.
Time at Michael Proctor's childhood home, have you not?
Yes.
You've been to the pool at the Proctor's house, correct?
Yes.
I have the pool photo. I know she's lying about Christmas.
I know she's lying about Chris, so it must have been before this.
Childhood home,
He
have
says-
you not?
Can I
Yes.
have the pool
You've
photo?
been to the pool at the Proctor's house, correct?
Yes.
I have the pool photo. I know she's lying about Christmas.
Lying
she's
about
lying.
Chris.
Yeah.
You've spent
I have the pool photo. I know she's lying about Chris.
I'll have to go back. He must have asked her, like, if Chris also would go, like, versus this being like a me and my sister are friends with the sister kind of thing, versus me and my husband and my children are close to them. You know what I mean?
Right.
He had to have asked about Chris, because otherwise he didn't say, I know she's lying
for
about.
Chris? She's lying for Chris? Lying about Chris. All right, let me go find it real quick. I'll pull it up. It can't be that hard to find, right?
No. It would have been towards the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I'm saying. It can't be that hard to find. And we know they go to a sidebar right after this. So, Karen trial day 8.
at Michael Proctor's childhood home, have you
Oh,
not?
no way did I. No way
Yes.
did I literally just hit on it.
Yeah, you
You
did,
could've-
but I would
I need to go buy. I gotta go. I gotta buy a lottery ticket. Like, no way did I literally just hit on that exact comment. I'm gonna go back, but no way did I find it right that quick. I never find anything that quick.
Your number's got to be 67, 34, 1, and you got to guess the rest.
They're talking about the pool at Michael Proctor's childhood home. Hi, Salty. Okay, so let me go back just a tiny bit, and we'll see the line of questioning.
Correct.
What were their names?
Jack and Caroline.
And Jack and Caroline were Trooper Proctor's niece and nephew, correct?
Yes.
The Proctor family entrusted you with the care of their children, correct?
Objection.
It's sustained as asked.
You know that Michael Proctor is a state trooper, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he also was from Canton?
Yes.
You knew his wife, Elizabeth Proctor?
Yes.
And you were also aware that Courtney Proctor had recommended you to also watch Michael Proctor and Elizabeth Proctor's children, correct?
Objection. Move to strike.
That objection sustained.
But you go back a long way with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were certainly at her wedding, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your son was a ring bearer at that wedding.
Objection.
All right, so we'll sustain that through this witness.
You've spent time at Michael Proctor's childhood home, have you not?
Yes.
You've been to the pool at the Proctor's house, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
There's
I don't
nothing there.
understand.
There's
Because
nothing there.
because he was talking about Chris, or he was talking about Colin being at the wedding. I don't know.
Right.
Unless it was
I
before
don't.
that. I don't know.
This is the only time the pool comes up.
No, I mean, like, maybe a question was asked about Chris, like, way before, maybe like Chris having a relationship with Courtney. Like, maybe she was asked if Chris also knows Courtney.
Okay. I'll play it
Like,
just
I
a little
don't
bit more.
know.
Aaron, let's keep on what comes up after that. They don't address it again. They never show the pool photo, nothing. We don't ever. And I don't think I looked for the pool photo. I don't think I have that one.
Oh, I can send it to you.
I might. I still have some that are loading, but I think that I don't know if I have that one. Yeah, I don't see it in here at first glance. So yeah, I don't know. All right, I'll play it just a little bit longer, and I don't. So here's the hot mic comes up right after this.
I sent it in the back chat.
I know she's loaded up for Christmas.
May we approach?
Yeah, going straight to sidebar. They come back and nothing's ever talked about again.
Say maybe a dozen.
Well, then maybe there is something, because that's when she talks about there's been a dozen. She's been over there a dozen times.
How many times have you been to the Proctor's pool?
Say maybe a dozen.
And you've certainly taken your children there as well.
Yes.
Colin has been to the Proctor's pool.
Yes.
And you've seen Michael Proctor's mother and father at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You've seen Courtney Proctor and her husband at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You are very close with Courtney Proctor, correct?
How would you define very?
Well, I guess I'd ask you to define very close.
I don't know.
Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
No, go ahead. Next question. You got your answer.
I didn't hear the answer.
Go ahead, repeat that.
Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. Unless Chris said something, and I don't remember them talking to him about Proctor's pool.
I don't know, but I sent you the pool photo, but then I also sent you another photo. It looks suspiciously similar to the fence at 34 Fairview, so I'm curious what you think, if that is.
Okay, so this is from Courtney's.
There's Baldy.
There's Chris.
There's Courtney in front of him.
Yep.
There's the little old lady to the left, I believe is... I might be wrong, but I believe that is Proctor's mom.
Oh, okay.
That's one of Jennifer's kids. And
All right. I mean, I'm gonna take it down. There's too many kids in there that I don't have locked out, so I don't want to leave it up for too long and it being an issue
all right,
for
pull
anybody.
up the other one, because that one's just Courtney and Colin.
Okay, and then this one.
Doesn't that look like their fence?
It does look like their fence, but it's also, I mean,
It's a birthday party, obviously. You can see presents in the background.
I don't know what her fence looks like, though. That's, I mean, like, this is how you end up down like weird rabbit holes. It's like, now I'm trying to figure out, like, who all has a fence that looks like this? And now I'm looking at people's houses and I'm like, what am I doing? Why? How do I end up down like these weird things?
Well, I guess it would be important because that would connect Courtney also to Brian and Nicole Albert, because she was at their house. You know what I mean? If it were their house.
Right.
But there's not enough to see.
That's this one. The Proctor's second family.
Yeah.
Is the photo of them.
Oh, and look, there's Chris. Wait, does he got a beard?
Wait, that's not him.
Zoom in.
I think that's Keith.
Well, minus Chris Albert, I say. That does look like him, though, from far away.
Yeah, I think that's the other. I think that's the other brother.
Wait, is that Nicole? Was that Nicole on the first? I have to say that she looked different than I expected. Am I the only one that felt that way?
Yes, because she doesn't look like the picture I have of her on my.
Me either.
On my,
I was like, what is she, like 7 feet tall? And she just didn't look like or even sound like what I expected of her.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Yeah,
this
that's
is what I saw. Is that not her then? Do I have some random ass person on here? Because I'm pretty sure that was her. It does not look the same at all. At all.
I'm not being mean. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not being mean. She doesn't. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, that doesn't look. I thought about it as soon as she took the stand. I was like, that does not look like the picture I have of this person. And I went and pulled it up. That's why I have it right here. Because I'm like.
And it's weird because if you look at, like, did you see Jennifer McCabe's sister there today?
No.
What? She was sitting, like, you have to find a spot where you can see Karen because she was literally sitting right behind them. She looks just like Jennifer McCabe.
Wait, was she sitting 2 people down from Paul?
I think, no, I think she was in like the back. There's 2 rows, right? No, I think she was in the back row.
Okay. There was a lady that I was like, wait a minute, who's that?
Now she looks just like her. She looks just like her.
And do you have children?
Yeah, Sherry's right. That I think they've aged.
My oldest daughter's 28.
Yeah, that doesn't look like the same person at all.
No.
Not at all.
That's so weird. Hold on.
Right there. Oh, right there. Right behind Paul. Right there.
That's her sister?
That is Jennifer McCabe's sister.
Oh.
It looks like her. That. Like if you want, like she looks like Jennifer. But Nicole is also her sister. And I don't think she looks like her.
I think so more now today after I see her on the stand than I did before in the pictures.
That's her. That's a weird face though. Like click play and see if you can see her like normal face.
Hold on. Well, that's actually not surprising, seeing as how I couldn't capture one.
I mean, that looks like her to me anyway.
She actually looks a lot like Nicole. So 50 pool parties, 1 million parties. What's it matter? Well, I don't know. That's why I was trying to figure out this whole dang. What did they think that she was lying about? It's inexpensive, so it's commonly used. Yeah, that's what I'm like. You have to figure out, which one of them had a fence like that.
Is it inexpensive? I didn't think that plastic type stuff was inexpensive.
It is. It's one of the cheaper.
Incestuous.
It's one of the cheaper type fences for sure.
Well, and as we're talking about it feeling incestuous, like I was thinking today more so than any other day, like all these people were family. I'm confused why John was even invited because he wasn't close with any of these. Like, yeah, maybe Jen McCabe, but it's odd to invite him back to your nephew's birthday party.
Right.
That wasn't even a birthday party. Like, it just feels weird because it seems like the only people that were invited back was family, and he was not.
Well, I can say after today's testimony, I really understood more of the where Karen says, like, I wasn't even sure we were supposed to be going. Like, I wasn't sure that we should, like, that we were invited because
absolutely
she doesn't even meet Nicole, which we'll talk about when we get to Nicole's testimony, but they're never even introduced to each other. Brian says he's met Karen one time.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, are we really supposed to be going? Are we supposed to really be going to these people's house? Like, we don't even know these people. Like, I'm not very comfortable with this. I could absolutely see that conversation now.
Yeah.
And John can also see all night and he's like, hell no, we're going to go have fun.
Yeah. I could also see the conversation while outside. Like, maybe you should go in and make sure, like, it's okay that we're actually here. I could see that too.
Right.
After today. Like
Jenny says, that's like a drunk thing. Everybody's out drinking. It's like, yeah, let's go back. Let's go find somewhere else to keep drinking. But I see that from both sides. Like, where they just invite everybody, and it doesn't matter. They don't care. They're just like, come back to the house. We're all good. We absolutely can hang out. But I also can see it from Karen's perspective. Like, these guys, I don't like, they're all family. They're all related. We're the outsiders. I don't know if we're supposed to go.
Yeah.
And we
And
kind
yeah,
of felt
that comment.
going over the couple from the basketball game and how they went there, and like how he was eating by himself, and the kids were like, Mom, like, you can't just leave Dad there by himself with a bunch of other people. Like, you need to, like, a bunch of other couples, you need to go like hang out with him.
Yeah. And I saw someone say something about Brian saying that the conversation he had with John was that John said his supervisor or whatever was like retiring and he should take his job. And I literally rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
Not buying it. It was weird. It felt like a
fake friend convo.
Yes. Like, I had to come up with something, with some type of conversation that we had. And so I don't know. And it felt like superior, like he felt like he was superior. I don't know, whatever. I didn't like it. The only people, I agree with Sherry. The only people I liked was the Greek couple.
Oh, and I liked the other couple too. Yeah, the couple that came and got Kaylee that morning.
Oh yeah, I did. They were different. Like, they're totally different people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I liked them too.
Yeah, like the Camerano that John went out with that night.
Yeah, Mike
like
Camerano.
A really good friend, man. Like a really good friend. Like, and they seemed really like more emotion from them than elsewhere, and seemed to know John very well. You know,
right.
I felt bad. I felt really bad.
Knew
for
his
them.
personality. Yeah.
In fact, after I saw them testify, that was when I got I was more infuriated at the thought of the kids getting on the stand. And I still do. I'm almost hoping at this point we're past it. Like, I'm almost hoping we're just past it. Like, I hope Lally just skips it, because but I know that there was some type of thing go out that said the day that they testify, they're not allowed to record. They're not allowed to be streamed, and nobody's allowed to say their names. And I thought, well, the Commonwealth has literally been, and witnesses have been calling those kids by their first and last names this entire time. It seems odd to now, like, do I think that their faces like shouldn't be? Yeah, I don't think they should be filmed. But
normally they just have the camera turned somewhere else.
Correct.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they lured him yet, but honestly, I wouldn't rule it out. This is the biggest thing I agreed with Bob today over on Jay's stream was I am not convinced of anything.
Yeah,
and in saying
the
that,
Ruthie thing kind of sent me down a path. Now my
you're gonna be hanging on that for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Well, take that in comparison to how many times does she call John O'Keefe? How many times does Karen call John O'Keefe before she drives away from 34 Fairview?
Oh, I would be interested to find out, but I believe it's a bunch.
I believe it's a bunch too. So when in that does John's just standing outside of the car while she's calling him?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
or like laying on the ground and she's just hanging out so she can make these calls to pretend. Like, that makes no sense. And nobody saw.
That's a big thing for me. Like, yeah, so if she's calling him to be like, why aren't you letting me know whether we're supposed to go in or not? Then he has to be somewhere. He's not just standing there staring at her while she's calling him.
I think she called the whole way home too, obviously, because she left voicemail. Probably that was the best thing she could have did. And here's the thing is, if she did hit him and knew she hit him, why would she then leave a voicemail of the time when she's arriving home that would put her a certain amount of minutes away from his death? You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, at that point, you can't say you dropped him off at 12:05 because now you know what I mean?
Right. So
a Dorito. A burrito.
Let's think about it. So Teresa, she has to drive up. What?
Teresa, is that some kind of show that I don't know about? Like a skibby?
What do you say?
He's been wrapping himself in a blanket, rolling around the floor, telling me he's a burrito.
I'm a burrito.
My mom almost peed herself when she was here.
He might just be a burrito.
Oh, maybe he is just a burrito.
I don't know. I have no idea. They watch my little one watches so much weird shit that I'm like, where did this even come from?
Oh, C-dub or we going there? Are we going back there?
She didn't hear it, I don't think.
Oh, what I said was a horrible thought that crossed my mind was after I saw John like drink that glass, because it clearly wasn't his drink. He was drinking beer. He had a bottle of beer in his hand, which confused me. Hey, we get it. You're a burrito. We hear you. When I saw him drink that drink that he then like walked out with, my question was like, whose drink was that? And I was thinking, like, God forbid, if it was Karen's, like, what if it was Karen's and somebody put something in Karen's drink? And John
Well, that's what I
drank
said.
it.
I'm like, it's obviously Karen's drink because she's the only one drinking out of the cocktail glass like that he paid for. So he's
I
not
didn't
going to
really think that until someone said maybe he didn't want to waste $8. You know what I mean?
I said that.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, shit. And it, like, literally popped into my head. Now I can't
Yeah.
get it out.
And I was like, wait a minute. And then we got Brian Higgins, who's messaging her while they're at the bar together.
Yep. And the question mark is weird. And not talking to her the whole time. The whole thing is weird. It's out there for me now.
Sherry said she heard that she called him like 50 or something times. And I've heard that she called him a lot, but I'm just curious about how many calls before her car actually leaves. So here's my thought. She'd have to pull up to the front of the driveway, right? And then she's like, well, I couldn't stay there because, you know, the truck was coming behind me and I figured out they were going to the same place. So then she has to go around Higgins' car and then she pulls up and she stops there. So this is supposedly when John gets out. We don't actually know that John didn't get out at the driveway.
I think
we don't know.
He got out.
We don't know that.
I do think it is when he got out, and I think that's why Ryan Nagel didn't
he gets out of the way and is like waiting for him. So she's parked there by the fire hydrant area by the flagpole, and then she has to drive forward 60 feet. And then decides to go in reverse at 24.2 miles per hour to hit him. But why is he still there it's what I'm trying to figure out. How does it make sense that he's there still?
That whole time. Well, I guess people are trying to say that he was inside the car, but if he was inside the car, why would she be calling over and over again? You know what I mean?
Not inside. There's no way he's still inside the car. That's what I want to know. So that's another big question.
Well, then Ryan Nagel would have saw him outside the car.
Right.
And Julie would have seen
he
him
would have been
outside
standing there. But it doesn't even make sense that he's standing there. So Patricia says she actually does think that Karen could be that devious. So I'd ask, what happened that makes you think that she could be? Because I guess I haven't seen that side of the situation. So I'm very curious. What has happened that makes you think that Karen would be that devious to hit him and then make these phone calls?
Yeah, like nobody even testified that she, like everybody, including John's sister-in-law and brother, like they all loved her. Like nobody, even the people that could say something terrible about her, can't. The most, like, the worst thing that I've heard anybody say is when like Chris Albert had to spit it out that she didn't seem drunk and she wasn't stumbling or slurring.
Right.
Like that was the most difficult thing that I've seen anybody say. Otherwise, like everybody else basically doted on her and how she doted on John and the kids. So other than other people saying things and that going around, I personally don't, or maybe the way she looks is off-putting to people, like her face. But you can't change that. Like that's her face.
Right.
Most people that look really horribly mean are not. It's like, you know what I mean? So I don't know where people get that either, other than the constant.
I don't know. That's why I wonder if there's something that I just don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Dean, I have to ask, how is your wife? Was Higgins' vehicle actually there? Well, they're saying that it was parked on the street by the mailbox.
Yeah, but they really struggled to not say that, though. Like, people were really weird about Higgins's truck or Jeep or whatever it was. You almost lit that on fire. It's going to be a bacon burrito.
He said something, Brian Albert did say something about like there was a coating, I think is what he called it.
He was also the only one to say that. And I don't think it was him. I thought it was Brian.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said Brian.
Oh yeah, that there was a coding. Oh, I'm looking right at it, and I literally was like not reading it. But she's right, per usual. A lot of people
Dusting.
picked up on that.
Dusting is what he said.
Yeah,
He said
dusting.
something that was just like a little bit.
And actually, dude, I can't wait for Ryan Nagel. Like, what's gonna happen when First of all, I don't think that Higgins's vehicle was like at the mailbox or whatever at that moment, because it couldn't have been if he pulled up the way that he did.
Right.
Ryan Nagel. So was it still in the driveway? Like, it probably was still in the driveway.
I'm a burrito. I'm a burrito.
Higgins plowed the driveway. Yeah. Was Higgins Collins' ride? Maybe do they know each other? And Higgins must have slept at the Camp Police Station because he leaves Cape Cod. He was there at 8:30, round table, 34 Fairview. Higgins wasn't Collins' ride that we know of. Nobody's testified to that anyway. Jenny agreed that they wanted her to plea. Okay, we'll keep going over here. So I think we were almost done with Cross. We were talking about the hot mic. Okay. Oh, I guess we're not almost done because this is the next one. The next big thing is he talks about her being friends with Courtney Proctor, which is Michael Proctor's sister. And okay, hold on. Before I get into that, Patricia answered. Somebody let me know if Dean answers because I want to know how his wife is. That Nightline interview reveals some of her toxic attitude, in my opinion. And for this to be a conspiracy, there would have to be so many people involved. It's just not feasible. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm almost at the point where I feel like, and I've said this the last few lives, from just everything I've looked at so far, that I'm not sure either one are right. I don't know if either side actually have of what actually happened. Like, I'm still curious. There's still so many more things. Like I said, there's certain testimony that I'm waiting for to answer some questions in my head, but I'm not necessarily he did answer me about. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I just think that, I don't know, I could be, if somebody thought that I killed my husband and I didn't, I would probably be fucking mad, especially when these women are just saying, like, that you said these things that you know you didn't say. So that's tough. That's a tough one. I'm kind of in the middle. And who would plow a Broken Baker? That is a great question. Why would he plow the driveway if it only had some dusting? Why did it need to be plowed at all? She's so far doing well, but can't get her to go to doctor now. She says it'll be fine. I don't know. It's frustrating. Fucking women. I know, Dean. Thank you, C-Dub, for letting me know.
I literally wait till I'm dying or my ear hurts.
I do. I'm really bad about it.
Burrito bread? What kind of bread is a burrito bread?
Chicken booty.
No. What did I just tell you it was?
Dean, happy wife, happy life. Let her be.
Mr. Brett.
He's a breakfast burrito now?
A doodilla.
No, that's my dad used to call him. And we would laugh every time. He'd call them tortillas.
I'm a
How can Albert, a 30-year-old Boston PD, 30-year veteran of Boston PD, not go outside and take a look at what happened at his house? I'd call bullshit. Well, I'll talk more about that when we get there. I'd be pissed too, and my natural resting bitch face that hides my nicest personality would become very real. If they weren't all family, I would be more inclined to think too many to cover up. Well, for the cover up, you do have to add a couple longtime cop buddies in to go with the defense theory. You have to add a couple outsiders from the family. But I mean, they've known each other their whole lives.
Who exactly? Who's the outside? Like, are you considering Matt McCabe? I'll help you,
Gabriella. I would too. I absolutely agree with that. If he just left me sitting in the fucking car and never even bothered to come back out and tell me, and never bothered to call me and nothing, I would be pissed. And I'd be like,
100%.
Oh yeah.
I also think there was probably some weird like, I'm sorry, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe, like, don't get me wrong, and I'm open to this. Like, maybe Jen McCabe, when she testifies, like, maybe my whole thought process on her will change. You know what I mean? Maybe.
Right. I'm so open right now. I have no I have no side in this. Like I have no, you know, anything on whether Karen did this or not. I have so much testimony that I'm waiting for to be able to determine what I think. I will tell you, I do think some of the cop stuff is pretty shady, but I'm also thinking, is it shady as in corruption or is it shady as in incompetence? And is it the combo? So
Well,
I'm kind of sitting there with the whole cop thing. Like they knew they shouldn't have been doing certain stuff. They obviously really don't know how to process a crime scene. And I would be
yeah,
curious how they did any other ones. I
but
also am not sold that there was like this planned murder. Like I said, I'm not sold there yet. This could be some other totally weird accident. What about the person picking up Colin? What about him just tripping and falling like Bob's new theory is? What if he was dropped off over by the driveway and he tripped straight over that plow? That could
what
make
if
the
somebody
injuries
did
on the arm.
roofie him? What if
I don't know
somebody
if
did
it's
try to
case
roofie
correctly, but
Karen?
I'm waiting. I'm not sold on anything. I got no dog in the fight, and I'm not on any team. I just think it's an amazing trial to watch and an incredible defense team who is just very, very smooth. And as somebody who likes law and likes trials and likes doing, like, it's a good trial to watch. That's where I'm at with it.
You're not going to be able to see like like it's not often. It would be even better if like the prosecutor, like it would be even better if like Jackson was the prosecutor and Yannetti was the like if there was an equal. You know how they
Right.
say like if you watch a Super Bowl and like they're winning like 40-0, it's like really not that great
Nobody
of a
watches
game.
it
Like,
anymore.
exactly. So like it would be better if they were like evenly matched. But
Right.
the fact is that you're not going to often get to see this type of lawyering. Well, not to mention I mean, it is a little different that they're paid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which often doesn't happen. But like their skill set, and you have to remember, like both of these men were previously prosecutors. And what's funny to me is people say that like they have no ethics and they lie and they do this and they
Mhm.
do that. And I'm thinking like, if they were still prosecutors though, would you be saying that? Or is it just
Right.
because now they're defense attorneys? Like they are what they are. If they have no ethics, then they wouldn't have had any ethics when they were prosecutors either. So do they need to go back and look at all the cases that they've been involved in from the beginning? Or do you just only
Right.
now not like them because they're defense attorneys? So it's weird to me, but I also think that it gives them a different type of experience to bring to this when they're going up against prosecutors, which is what they were. So they know how they think. And
Yeah.
I'm like you, like I'm not sold on anything, but I've always said from minute one that if I'm inclined to believe that like all of these people that were in the house that are family members would be trying to cover something up, it would be something that involved the children of the family. Because
Right.
maybe you and your family wouldn't do something like that for the kids in your family, but I personally know families who would. Because especially when you're looking at young kids and you're like, oh my God, like it was a total accident. But
They
guess
have
what?
their whole life ahead of them. We cannot let them go
Exactly.
down to this.
Exactly. But guess what? If you get into a fight and that person dies, that
Right.
doesn't mean, just because you didn't mean to kill them doesn't mean, and I'm not saying that's what happened here, but I'm saying if they die, it doesn't, just because you didn't mean to doesn't mean you're not going to jail. Like think of the people who do stupid things, like not even drinking. Let's say people that are tired and they're driving tired and they wreck and kill a car full of a family of 3 people. You think those people, just because it was an accident and they feel really bad about it, they won't go to jail? They're going to jail. They're going to prison. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like,
And
but they would. It's like, let's say something happens and he only goes to jail for 6 months. Well, that's going to follow him everywhere, and they're kids. You know what I mean? So I've always been,
I
you
can
could lean
see
me.
that. Like I said, it does. It takes a lot of people to do something along those lines. But I think that for the perspective of being a trial watcher, I want to make sure that people know the defense does not have to prove that these other people did it. That is not a requirement of what they have to do.
Right.
What they have to do, and their job is to create reasonable doubt based on what the state is presenting.
Did
which
you
is
read
why
that thing
earlier
I
I was
sent you, though?
questioning, why is he spending so much time defending his witnesses against third-party defense instead of just presenting evidence that proves she did it?
It looks so
So
weird. Like,
it
in,
does.
in my head, these people have no business on the stand. Like, if that wasn't the third party defense, I don't see what they bring to this at all to have even called them at all. You know what I
Right.
mean?
So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't mean for anybody to think like I'm like, oh, absolutely, it is more believable that these people all did this. Like I said, I think my personal opinion right now is I think there might be another option. I can't say that for sure because I don't know. I don't know all the rest of the testimony, but I'm curious. I have a few people that I'm really looking forward to testifying to see what they have to say. For me to go, okay, I can see this, or yeah, nope, I don't see it at all. But I don't know. Your thought that the whole when we realized it was Karen's drink and that whole thing. I don't know. I'm thinking there could be something to that. So now I'm curious about that too. So add that to the list.
Sherry keeps talking about Chris, what
Did
Chris
she?
did. Yeah. Can I tell people?
Oh yeah,
In
I
case they
actually
don't know?
said that earlier. You had walked away real quick, and I said when you came back on, you'd tell us more about Chris.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
you want to talk about it? I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick.
okay, I'll just read you the thing. So this was from, hopefully I don't lose everybody because like I'm out here, but 1994, a masked man was arraigned in district court yesterday on charges stemming from a hit and run accident on Route 95 early Saturday that killed a Hungarian national enrolled at Johnson and Wales University. Christopher Albert, 22, of Canton, surrendered to state police Sunday morning about 30 hours after the accident that killed Peter Mazeros Berger. Oh my God, I'm probably saying that wrong, but he was 23. Police say Mazeros, I'm just going to call him Peter, was southbound on the interstate just south of the Route 123 exit about 3 a.m. Saturday when his car was struck in the rear by a small white car and careened into the concrete median divider. That the other car did not stop. Peter was pronounced dead about 2 hours later in Rhode Island Hospital. A passenger in his car, Peggy, was treated at the same hospital for minor injuries and released. Peter was not using a seatbelt, but the other lady was. Albert, accompanied by a lawyer, surrendered to the state police barracks in Foxborough about 9:30 a.m. on Sunday. He directed investigators to a place in Cumberland where investigators found his 1991 white Chevrolet Lumina. In district court yesterday, Albert pleaded guilty to charges of leaving the scene of an accident, death resulting, motor vehicle homicide by, I lost my place. Oh, motor vehicle homicide by reckless operation. Judge John Dolan freed him on $1,000 bail pending a pretrial conference. Peter came to Providence in September to enroll in the one-year master's degree program in international business management at Johnson & Wales. He was described by the dean of the graduate school as one of the top students in the MBA honors program. Then it says where his apartment was. You could not run into two nicer boys, said the landlord. Peter was one of the nicest, most disciplined, highly intelligent young men I've ever run across. I compared him to my own son. And then in 1995, says driver gets 6 months in jail for fatal hit and run accident. Canton man was sentenced to serve 6 months in jail after pleading guilty to charges stemming from a hit and run. So hopefully I didn't cut out because I was out of the window for a long time. But so he hit and killed somebody, left the scene, pled guilty, and went to jail for 6 months, which is, you know. But so you have that. And then I know that Tim, whoever he hit, didn't die, but like he hit somebody too and like left the scene. So I guess my whole thing, like I said to you, Teresa, like my whole thing was like, I don't know why that wasn't a consideration when it seems like it happens often. Like I just feel like, I don't know. It should have been considered as an option. And
the attorney was Bev's brother.
just ridiculous. You would think though that he wouldn't look down like if this actually was what happened and Karen really this is really what happened, you would think they wouldn't look down on her with like such condemnation. Like, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Talk about the pot. Say the pot calls the kettle black. Say that.
No.
No.
Say
It's
you're a
not meant.
burrito.
You shouldn't say it. Say you're a burrito.
No.
Why?
Oh,
What's
he's like,
wrong?
no, I just want to cuddle, mommy.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
scratching his.
so
That
get to
felt
the
good. I was rubbing his feet earlier. He said he said it felt good. I thought he was gonna say it hurt, but I think he's got growing
oh,
bones.
that's nice.
Is your bones growing?
Somebody rub my feet.
She
So
wishes
there's
somebody
this
would rub
whole
her feet.
back and forth between Yannetti and Julie about Courtney and how much they talk. And she says they text more and they don't actually talk on the phone. They talk on the phone very rarely. He used that as an opportunity. He was like, wait a minute, what? Rarely? I don't even know if he actually planned on like saying it. If she had just said, yeah, we talk all the time, you know? She says they talk on the phone very rarely. So then he brings up her phone records and talks about that she actually talked to Courtney 67 times between February 1st and September 6th of 2022. Now, she says that's not a lot. I can tell you right now, if I talk to somebody 67 times in that amount of time, I like them. They're probably a very good friend. It's probably my husband at this point in my life. I don't talk to anybody that much. So when they
Do you
said
know
it
how
was
much?
a lot,
I will stare at the phone while my mom is calling me
I'm so
and
bad.
text her back. Like, if I'm talking on the phone, it's because we got a lot to talk about, and I can't keep texting it. But other than that, most of the time when somebody calls me, I'm usually just looking right at the phone. I'm just not answering because it holds you up, right? Like it stops you from doing other things you need to do. Like for texting, I can be doing whatever I need to do, but if we're on the phone, then like I can't.
It's like a commitment.
It is a
And I am one of those
commitment.
people who's like, I want to be able to focus on what I'm doing. And so that means I have like I'm not like in my house with all my kids and doing everything. You know what I mean? Like otherwise I know that conversation is going to last forever. I can't just have it. I can't just do it. I don't have the time to commit to the conversation. So sometimes I just don't answer the phone.
Commitment problems.
I do a little bit. So anyway, so this goes back and forth, and so he asked her, like, did you use Courtney as an intermediary between her brother, who's doing this investigation, and yourself, like, to find out more information about the investigation? Because they talked on the phone for 12 minutes on February 1st, which is before the right when Karen was getting arrested, is February 1st, and then 3 times before Karen's arraignment on February 2nd. And then 27 minutes right after the arraignment. Thought that was interesting.
You're not going to tell me that's not suspicious.
No, come on.
Like they weren't talking about exactly that. Like, I feel like it would have been more helpful, less suspicious if she had just said, well, obviously, if we were talking right before and immediately following, we were likely talking about the arraignment. Like, or, well, obviously, I was going to watch this because, John was our friend.
Why doesn't this is why I don't know why they lie. This bothers me more than anything.
Me
is
too.
Don't lie. Yeah, I did. We were talking about it. Not because she knows anything, because her brother didn't tell her, but yeah, she's my friend. So we were sitting there talking about it. We were watching it together.
The evasiveness is way more suspicious than the actual answers most of the time.
Yep. So. I would have just admitted to so much of this stuff. Yeah, I've known her since we were little kids. We were talking about it, and it happened to involve both of our families. So, but we didn't have any inside information, but we still talked. Let's see. Discuss with her family and friends. She says she did discuss it with her family, her relatives. She's not really sure about her friends, and he's like, yeah, rarely, 67 times. Define what you mean by rarely. She doesn't remember what they actually talked about, if it was about the arraignment or not on the 2nd. Here, we talked about this earlier, but she says that on February 10th, she is interviewed by Michael Proctor and Trooper Bukaki.
Oh no! I hope Jay's not here. Lone Pony said one thing is for sure: if prosecution is hiding the fact they know where the dog is, that is freaking huge issue for me. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think people don't understand how it's like, that they're sitting here talking about wanting to test for dog DNA and stuff. What would be the reason? Like, you're not going to say that you didn't want to subject a dog to DNA testing. Like, are you serious? All it is, it's the same thing. So it's like, why were you
When
at
she said today that she knew where the dog was, or that she had told them where the dog was, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
and
shit.
before she said that she did, in fact, tell him that, Lally was already objecting. And I was like, uh-oh, what's Lally trying to hide? And then when she said, did you or whatever, or who did you tell? And she was like, I'm pretty sure I told, I don't know if she said Mr. Lally or if she said the Commonwealth. I don't remember what she said, but it made it quite clear that she was saying that she absolutely did tell them exactly where the dog was. And so if he then did hide the dog, knowing all the way up through till the witness testified.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear those sidebars after this trial is over and to see what happened after she was like, oh, really? You did you?
Yep.
Because, I mean, that's huge.
She was shocked. And I think people didn't understand. Like, I almost think that, I think people this whole time, like, people don't understand that the only person that came from was, like, Jennifer Coffendorfer.
Right.
Like, they've been asking the Commonwealth that over and over again. And it doesn't matter if Jennifer Coffendorfer says that, and Albert told her that that's where the dog is Vermont. That needs to come from the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
So,
otherwise, who said it up here? A Brady violation.
Correct.
So what happened in that sidebar that made it so they didn't go back to it again. They didn't go back and try to. So I don't know. I was wondering about that. But if they really did know where that dog was and they didn't turn that over, that's when you start going, how do you not think conspiracy? Because I'm telling you, you tell the story the way that it was Karen backed up into him, accidentally hit him. She was, she had been drinking. She didn't know he was behind her. And then she leaves. And all is said and done. You go, that actually, what the Occam's razor, like, that seems like it's probably possible. It happens. People do get hit by cars accidentally. People don't mean to do it. But then when you start to add in, like, the layers of all the really weird shit, nobody finds any taillight pieces at the crime scene during the initial investigation when there's only 6 inches on the ground, but they can find a glass and they can.
Ariel's right. She's what if she gave the Commonwealth the info about where the dog is and then Lally looked into it and found out it was a lie? That would be even worse.
Then he would know that she just committed perjury.
And also, exactly. And also, in my opinion, well, they couldn't really, so, like, it would sound really bad if they confirmed that they, like, put the dog down. The timing of everything is just really suspicious. You're going to tell me that dog didn't bite anybody for 6 years, and then all of a sudden John dies, and now the dog's biting to the point where then you have to get rid of it? And then you get,
right.
See, now I'm
and it
calling
just so happens to be after, it just so happens to be after John dies, and the dog now just has this random attack of human beings, and now it's got a thirst for blood, and we don't want it to happen again. So,
just like they happened to bring up the house in September, and then October goes up for sale, but they were really talking about selling it for a year. Like, you know what I mean? Everything's just made to be like it's this giant.
And if you're moving anyway, why wouldn't you just find a place with a more secure fence that the dog can't get out of?
It's offensive, like to my intelligence, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't see it. So I'm going to kind of just skip through the biggest things that here. She says that she did not see Karen and John fight, but she wasn't really at the bar with them very long. Talks about when Colin came home. We already talked about that. When she went to 34 Fairview at about 8:30 in the morning, there was nobody left. There was nobody there. I keep telling her, like, the crime scene was, no cops were at this house after 8 a.m. until Lank went back at 9. It was cleared by 8 a.m. Anybody could have touched anything they wanted to on that front lawn. So when she gets there at 8:30, there's nobody there. he does ask her a really good point. Like, when was it decided among this group of 7 people that are in the house that Jen should call Lank? And I was like, that is a really good point, because Jen doesn't just decide to call Lank. It's obviously a conversation that's being had, because Julie has to send Jen McCabe Lank's cell phone information. So we know there's obviously a conversation happening. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Whether it's between 2 people or 7 people, we know there's a conversation about her calling Lieutenant Lank. Is he a lieutenant? I don't know if he was a lieutenant. I think he was. So she's like, no, Jen decided to do that. Now, here is another big thing I want to talk about before we move on to the next one. Yannetti starts talking to her about how the state police are contacting her on March 21st of 2024. He essentially calls her out for avoiding it, but I think a lot of people miss the whole why does he have her phone records from March of this year? That is a huge thing. So she doesn't answer the phone. That the state police end up having to call her husband to say, hey, like, where's your wife? We've been trying to get a hold of her for like over a week. She finally meets up with them on April 3rd of 2024. So I just think it's a really big deal that they have this information that's coming. My opinion, I can't prove it, but it's coming from the FBI investigation. So you have FBI agents that are literally investigating situations and these people. Otherwise, how are you getting her phone calls? How are you getting her phone calls from March? How do you know she's getting these messages? I mean, it could be easily from the state police's log, but there's still I mean, that's interesting. Criminality and Sufi, do either of you have what time Julie said she gave Jen Lank's number? No, it's while she was there, because he asked her, did you realize that Jen immediately deleted it? And she said, no, I don't know.
And also,
so it has to be during that conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
Why was she ducking the state police in March?
Right.
Like, he made that very clear that they like tried to, then they called like they sound like debt collectors. Then they called Chris wanting to talk to her. You know what I mean? Like, why was she ducking the police? And when she did finally talk to them, they made it clear that it was not Proctor or Buchanan. And so I'll now I always have to pause. God forbid. I hope that
You're going to do a Julie. You're going to pull a Julie Albert.
I really hope not. Like, I was thinking about after that, like, Bob saying he was going to go talk to whoever. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I hope he doesn't say that on television. Because it's easy. It slips out now that it's been said.
Now that we know it.
So, I don't know.
You wrote down that she said at 6:53 a.m., which was way before she went to the house. I have a time, but I questioned it, so not sure what was said. We'll have to go back and listen. I did not write down a time. From my understanding,
I thought he said 8:59 p.m., but I think he meant 8:50.
No, because he's talking about it here.
Yeah, because Jen McCabe called Mike. Wait, who are we talking about? Are we talking about Lank?
Yeah, when Jen McCabe called him at 9 o'clock.
At 8:59 a.m. So I think he meant a.m. and he said p.m. At 8:59 a.m., she called Michael Lang's personal cell phone for 13 seconds. So I think, and then she immediately hung up with him and then called Carrie Roberts for 5 minutes and 5.5 minutes.
Right.
And so she was there at 8:59 per her own words, a.m., not p.m. So I think he misspoke. But basically he's saying, okay, so that's because I said, how did she have his personal cell phone number? Well, that's the answer. Because when she called to have them come back, she called his personal cell phone.
Was that in today's testimony? That was today's, right?
Yes, I think so.
Let's see if we can find it.
Texted the Massachusetts State Police on April 1st, correct?
I think around that. I don't know the exact date.
All right. And you finally met with the Massachusetts State Police on April 3rd of 2024, correct?
I would assume, I don't know the exact date, but yes.
In my notes, I have it before this.
And the basement door is on the left before you enter the kitchen.
All right, but the kitchen's off to the left, correct?
No, when you walk in the front door, the library is on the left. There's another room on the left.
Okay.
So you walk in, you immediately.
I'll let, if this witness knows independently.
Can you repeat that once more, please?
At some point, it was decided among the 7 of you that Jennifer McCabe should contact Michael Lank of the Canton Police Department.
See,
I
that's
don't
bad.
remember
She
who
didn't call the
exactly
police department. She
Jennifer
called him.
decided.
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly the discussion.
You knew Michael Lank, correct?
Yes.
And at 8:53 a.m., you sent to Jennifer McCabe
8:53 a.m.
Michael Lank's personal cell phone
Oh,
number,
he did
correct?
say AM.
He said
And
8:53.
did you then see
Good.
Jennifer McCabe delete that text message from you?
Ooh.
Objection.
Bet you know you did.
You were contacted by the Massachusetts State Police this.
There you go. 8:53 a.m. She sent it to her.
And then she called him at 8:59 a.m. So I bet you Chris or her or somebody said, it's fine. Call Michael Lank. Here's his personal cell phone number.
Yep. And remember,
Yikes.
Link wasn't even the one who was supposed to go back there because he's no longer allowed to do investigative interviews.
Yeah, so she calls and says, I just remembered that she said on the way there that she could have hit him. Very, very interesting. It's like so obvious. It's bizarre.
Yeah, that's weird.
I didn't know about the deleting, but I did always wonder because I'm looking at her calls and I'm like, there's no call from them. It's like, how did she get his phone number?
We said that
And
the
now
other day when we were talking about Link, when we were going over Link's testimony. We were like, how did she know Link? How would she have known to call his personal cell? Well, here you go. Here's your answer.
Yep. Got it from Julie.
So there is a conversation, no doubt about it. So that's pretty much all that happens on cross. But I mean, he gets her a couple times. But back on direct, she said this, and if this is true, he doesn't show any of the phone records, but she says 67 calls over 7 months, 210 days. She has other friends that she talks to, and comparatively, this is actually less conversations than she has with her other friends. So I'm like, if that's true, then maybe it doesn't seem like a lot to her, and it is rarely. But for me, as an outsider looking in, I'm like, shit, 67? Even in 7 months, that's a lot to me. Said that Proctor was not one of the first interviews, not one of the officers to interview her this year from state police. He wanted to clarify that. Cooperated and provided the phone, so he also wanted to make sure that, they were trying to say, why are you dodging the state police for 2 weeks? And then they're like, when you did meet up with them, you cooperated and gave them your phone for them to look at. They didn't keep it, but they did look at it. So that was essentially hers. Then we get Nicole Albert. Like I said, I had a hard time grabbing a photo, so this is the best one I got. I'm gonna go through this really quick. A lot of this is the same stuff, and we'll just touch on the stuff that's different. But I know we've already been on here 2.5 hours, and we could just do this all night. So I'm just going to touch on it really quick. We'll get through it, and then we'll get anything that we want to talk about Nicole Albert's out. A lot of it is very repetitive.
I get it. I'll shut up.
No, that's not you. That's just me. That's I just want to read through it so that way we don't have any. Otherwise, we're not going to get to Brian's, which I think his is pretty boring anyway for the most part. So she is one of the homeowners of 34 Fairview. She was picked up by her sister-in-law, Julie, taken to the waterfall. She only had met John a couple of times. She didn't know Karen. Nobody even introduced her to Karen that night. She did not know who she was. Her son was having his birthday party. He had 2 friends over when Colin was there when she got home. John and Karen never came into her house that night. They never came into her house. They'd never been to her house. They were not at her house that night. She wasn't even aware that Jen had even invited them until later. So she didn't know they were coming. She didn't care that they were coming. Everybody was welcome. Brian Higgins left around 1:30. Go ahead.
If everybody was welcome, don't you think they would have extended a welcome to everyone?
the way she kind of puts it is like she just went over to the group at that side of the table and just said, hey, like, this is what we're doing. And
Maybe.
she didn't specifically invite anybody.
Okay. I believe that. Carry on.
Brian Higgins left at 1:30. The girls in the McCabe's left at 1:45, which is Sarah and Julie Nagel. And then her daughter was the last one to leave around 2 when her boyfriend picked her up. The boyfriend was also at the bar, but had left the bar because he was going to be doing plowing, so he wanted to go home and take a nap before he had to plow, which I thought was interesting too. And she says that she goes up to bed at about 2:30, so that Brian Albert, her husband, was already up in bed, and she went up after everybody left, and her daughter was the last to leave. She's awoken. Go ahead.
I wonder where he plowed. Like, wouldn't it be interesting if he plowed like there as opposed to where they live? Because you would think that if he was like plowing in Canton, that he would like stay there instead of them driving at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's, you know what I mean? Then he'd have to drive back. Travis, the only reason we're accurate is because we can actually listen to it. I cannot hear you, so I'm assuming you don't know you're muted.
Gosh darn it.
This is why if anything, I'll just be quiet and let you know if you're muted or not, because I had a feeling you were trying to talk.
I was like,
that would have went on way longer.
I'm like, I just want to be able to hear it so that we don't have to spend all this time listening to all these streams. I'm like, Sleuthy and I were going to be so busy taking notes of other people's notes. It's going to suck.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. Go ahead.
So she went to bed. She was awoken in the morning by her sister, Jen, who bursted in. ATS. I'm like, she's so quiet tonight. You know it ain't true. You know that ain't true. But so she uses the word like that Jen bursted into her room between 6 and 6:30. That's important because her husband testifies with the exact same line. She goes downstairs to talk to Lank, who's in the foyer of the house. So that's her version. Her husband called Brian Higgins, and Julie arrives with donuts. She did see cruisers out front when Lank was there. They talk about Chloe, the German Shepherd. They got it from a shelter in Texas, which I thought was interesting. And they go through the cars that were in the driveway. The kids had a Ford Escape, her husband's work car, her Cadillac SUV, and an Explorer. They moved in April of 2023. They'd been planning on selling the home. Anything you want to add to direct?
Nope, I don't think so. Wait.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Oh, no, that happened on Cross. Go ahead.
Right. Cross is better. So Elizabeth Little, this is the first time we get to hear from her on any type of cross-examination. So it was interesting. I thought she was a little nervous. She had a couple mishaps on like the process of how things go. Like you have to walk up, you have to show it to Lolly, you have to have it admitted like for review. That's not the right word, but you have to have like to show it to her, and then you have to ask to put it up on the screen, and then she'd leave stuff up on the screen for too long, so then she'd get in trouble for that. But I did think the judge was actually nice to her and was like trying to like kind of walk her through it, knowing she wasn't super comfortable with the process. But it was interesting to hear from her. She was very intelligent. She was very quick. I could see that she's like a protege almost. So they asked that they were at the waterfall for about 4 hours. She didn't really interact with John or Karen. She saw no tension, didn't see Karen drunk. They go over the video of Brian and Brian play fighting. They don't actually show the video, but they talk to her about that. You know, did you know that they were doing it? She says yes. Husband is not a highly trained fighter. She takes like offense to this, that he's not a highly trained fighter, because we were always told that he was like an MMA fighter, like he did some type of fighting like that. And she's like, no, he is not a highly trained fighter. Like she kind of like laughs it off, like, ha ha, Brian being a highly trained fighter. That's silly. He was on a fugitive task force that made a television show. The guy isn't like some like teddy bear. I mean, he obviously knows what he's doing.
I also think it's important to consider that he was on a whole ass TV show. So what did he
Right.
say on the TV show? You know what I mean? Are we boiling it down to what he said versus what was actually true? Like, will it matter if he said on a TV show that he was a highly trained fighter if he wasn't in real life? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because now then you can use his words saying, well, you said you are. You know what I mean? So then at
We
that
might
point,
get
it's
to
like,
that. We might get
yeah.
to that on Cross on Monday.
Did you lie to look more cool in Boston's finest?
You're like, oh yeah,
He tried so hard.
I'm a highly trained fighter.
Dude, as soon as I saw him, I was like, he literally like went to someone and was like, make me look as old as possible. Like old and not a cop.
And I think it's funny, like I went to different to Twitter and to Facebook, and how many people who weren't, I don't think, listening to each other were all saying how he did try to look like Mr. Rogers.
He did, but also I had a lot of people say that he still looked extremely intimidating.
And he does look intimidating.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, hire to the jury." Blah blah blah. All right, let me finish her first. I'm gonna get to him. But anyway, so she's like laughing that her husband's like some highly trained fighter. Like, okay, whatever.
Well, is he a pussy? Yeah, that's what it said.
She's like, I can fucking take him.
Is he Olympic?
He's Olympic. I don't think so, but so she says they left the waterfall about midnight. They do play the video of her leaving the waterfall, and she's carrying her White Claw out of the waterfall. So I thought that was an interesting little clip. Her husband's work car is a Ford Edge. So Elizabeth is like, why did you not just answer that?
Why did you after she rattled off the cars that they have?
Right, because over here she's like, oh yeah, my husband's work car, Cadillac, Explorer. Mm-hmm. She's like, why did you like intentionally not say what kind of car he had? You like purposely didn't want to say it. She's like, is there a reason you didn't want to say it? She's like, no, like no, I just didn't.
There absolutely
was. She said she didn't intentionally leave it out. So Higgins was parked in front of the house mailbox. And I actually had this clip pulled up, and then I think I pulled it down when I went and watched another stream to show you guys. But there was something that she said that made me I was trying to picture how she's explaining how Higgins parked in front of the mailbox. Because she said that he's facing, I'm going to end up pulling it back up. Hold on. She said he's facing, I wonder if I can find it. I think it might be right in here, hopefully.
Teresa, I'm gonna wash the dishes.
Okay.
No. Okay.
But she talks about like he's facing Fairview, and I was like, what? Like, what? So let's see if I can find it real quick. If I can't, I'll let it go, and I'll find it later.
Now, in addition, let me ask you this.
Wait, I thought that same thing. They asked which direction Higgins was parked in, and I was like, facing Fairview.
Right. Like he's not parked that way. Well, I'm just wondering, was he parked on the street facing the wrong direction? Was what I was trying to figure out.
No.
Like, you know, like
he would either be facing Chapman or he would be facing
I'm sorry, let me try to find it real quick.
It's escaping me, but if he was parked in the driveway facing out, he would be facing Fairview.
Okay, so let me see if I can find it real quick, and we'll see exactly what she says, because I was trying to figure this out earlier. I pulled the clip up, and then, like I said, I used that to pull up a different stream, so I kind of screwed myself.
22, did your family have any pets?
Yes.
And how many pets did you have?
We had one. We had a
8.
I know it's right here somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure where.
front door, and then the side door is over here.
Did other people come over here?
Yes, at some point, my husband's friend Brian Higgins came over.
And do you know how he came to be at your house that morning?
I believe Brian called him to let him know. I mean, he had been with us the night before, and I think he
in the evening, was there any sort of live entertainment there?
Yeah, but
And around that date of, so January 28th, 2022, what, if any, significance was the next day of January?
doesn't seem like it. And we went to the waterfall and I believe that table and they said, no.
And over the course of the evening, what, if any, discussion was there that you heard or were a part of in regard to sort of what was going on?
All right, I don't think I can. I'm not able. It's right in this spot somewhere, but I don't want to waste too much time trying to find
any
it.
sort of particular rhyme or reason as to which door you would be entering?
We usually use the side door. You know, initially I didn't like that because the side door walked right into the family room. So I kind of liked the other door you could walk into.
If somebody wants to go find it, it's right around this. It's right around here, about the 2-hour 40-ish minute mark on Law and Crime. But I'm gonna skip it for now. But I there's something interesting about what she says, or how she says that Brian Higgins is parked, and I think it's important based on how and where John would have gotten out of the car. So why was he plowing when there was only a light dusting? Yeah. Brian says that too, that he'd only been in the house one time and he wasn't even sure if he'd actually ever been in the house. Huggies. Aw, little Brian Huggies. And they just call him that. Where was that? Oh, we're on Cross. Maybe it was on Cross that they make her explain it better. Maybe that's why I'm screwing it up. Anyway, like I said, I'll figure it out and then I'll let you guys know. Ran into Colin when she walked in the door. He said he was leaving. His ride was almost there. So they leave at about midnight. That's when we see them on surveillance walking. I think it was like 11:58. She says it's about 7 minutes to get home. So they're home by 12:10 at the latest. They're home. And she says he was leaving. She said that she went in, she saw him, was like, oh, hey, I didn't know you were here. And then she doesn't actually see him again. He's like essentially on his way out the door, even if he isn't out the door already. They start talking about Chloe, and she says Chloe did not like other dogs. There was a fight history with other dogs. She wasn't dog friendly. She was people friendly, but not dog friendly. So there was a fight outside. Chloe had gotten out. There was a fight outside with another dog. The lady of the other dog tried to get involved and ended up getting hurt, which is my mother to a T. That's exactly what she would do. There was 2 women who were actually taken to the hospital. She said she doesn't think the dog actually bit the other woman. She thinks the other woman fell. But they're both taken to the hospital, and it was just she had gotten out and the lady got hurt. She said her husband is the one who let Chloe outside that night. She takes a big offense when she's asked, or said that she got rid of the dog. And she's like, we didn't get rid of the dog. We rehomed the dog. She's like really upset about the fact that they said she got rid of it. I'm like, that is getting rid of the dog. You got rid of it. It's not there anymore. You got rid of it. She never heard a crash that night, never heard any yelling outside, no reason for her to go outside to see what was going on. She said Caitlin was the last to leave. She said she's always maintained that. She's not sure why Link wrote it down differently, because originally it was said that she was one of the first to leave. So this is either she's lying or Link, once again, an officer, a law enforcement officer, can't actually write down notes correctly. One or the other. She has discussed the case with each other prior to the Proctor interviews. She spoke to him on February 3rd for the first time. So February 3rd, backdate to January 29th, almost 6 days. Left out people at the house. She doesn't think so. She didn't think that she did during her interview. She thought she told them everybody was there, but she never mentioned Colin to Lank or Proctor. She never tells anybody. Nobody essentially tells anybody that Colin was even at the house that night. Her windows are to the left of the left front of the house, literally, which would be almost straight back from where John's body was found. Like you would, like all that commotion would be right out their window. It's not like they're in the back right of the house. They're right there in the front left of the house. She didn't hear sirens, but they testified that they did not come in with sirens. They came in with lights only. So that was asked of them, and they said they did not come in with sirens, so they wouldn't have heard sirens. But flashing lights and the commotion and Karen outside screaming, that's a different story. She said she was woken up by Jen McCabe, and so he shows her a Celebrite report where it shows that she answered these 2 calls. One's for like 7 seconds, one's for like 9 seconds. Those times might be wrong, but there's seconds apiece. But the Celebrite report does show that they're both answered. She says no, never answered it, and never answered those calls. Never happened, never answered those calls. Elizabeth Miss Little tries to get in, like, you have blankets in your house. This gets objected to a few times, so she has to kind of reword it. Essentially, yes, there's blankets in the house. She is laying next to a first responder, meaning her husband is a first responder, and did not know that. She said, we didn't go outside. We didn't know to go outside. We didn't know anything was going on outside until Jen bursted through our bedroom door to tell us that something was happening and we needed to get up and come and talk to the cops. That's how we knew. We didn't know anything. We never saw anything, nothing. So on redirect, she says the calls from her sister did not wake her up, and she did not speak to her sister. She's never seen a Celebrite report before. She has no idea how to interpret it or why it would say answer or not answered or anything like that. She said when Chloe had gotten in this altercation with the neighbor dog and the lady, they went over there, they apologized to the lady, they offered to pay for all the bills for the dog, for the lady, and that's when they decided to rehome Chloe. They contacted the shelter back in Texas where they got her from. They ended up telling her that Chloe would most likely end up being put to sleep if she went back to a shelter, so they got her in touch with this person from Vermont, and they drove and met halfway for the dog exchange for Chloe to go live in Vermont. On recross, she says that she had no voicemails from her sister. So this call never even went to voicemail, and if it did go to voicemail, there's no voicemail. She had no voicemails from her sister that morning. This is when everything kind of got funky. We already kind of talked about it, so I'm just going to touch on it right now. So she never gave Chloe's records to the defense, even though they were requesting it. It kept getting sustained. This kind of goes back and forth for a little bit. She said that she believes that she gave it to the Commonwealth. And that's when Elizabeth is like, oh, really? You did? And then Lolly asked for a sidebar, and we don't hear any more of it. That's it. Done. Don't know what happened. Don't know why. But where's my Brian Albert picture? Come on. All right, so let's see what you guys thought about Nicole Albert's testimony. Remember, that was the whole thing. Last one was supposed to lock it, and the keys always got lost, yada, 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 so it was unlocked often. They do talk about that they leave their house unlocked. They don't always lock it up. I remember living in a community like that. I don't live in, I haven't lived one for a long time that I could just leave my house unlocked and I'd feel comfortable. The pic of the road looks a lot like a lot of cars were parked there blocking the snow. Nobody's talked about these phone calls yet, so I'm assuming that's going to come up when on Cross on Monday with Brian Albert. I almost thought she was going to blame Chloe for answering the phone. Well, they do say there's only 2 of you in the room, right? Like somebody had to answer the phone, so it was either you or your husband. Somebody answered it. And it wasn't 6:30. They got it out that it was 6:45 when they came downstairs and saw Lank. I passed out from all the sex. They haven't talked about sex yet. He talks today on direct. Brian, so this is her husband, obviously, so Brian and Nicole, the homeowners. He talks today and he says that he went up to bed at about 1:30. He went down to see when everybody was leaving, and then he went back up, and he was just watching TV when his wife came up, and she laid down and watched TV with him for a while. Nobody's talked about sex yet, but that did come out at one of the pretrial hearings. Yeah, I don't get how the dog would not have noticed that there was all this commotion outside. I mean, are these guys just like extremely heavy sleepers? They just didn't hear anything? Were they that intoxicated maybe? That they were passed out? Did he say that they were intimate that night? If he did, I missed it. I only remember that from the pretrial hearings. The cop feels comfortable leaving door unlocked without cameras. Well, he had gotten cameras for Christmas in 2021. He just hadn't put them up yet. From my understanding, when they all testified, they all said that they did not have their sirens on. Apparently, they don't lock their car doors either. Yeah, because Aunt Julie can just come and put in. Aunt Julie can just come in and put the donuts in the car. How do you fulfill your ritual if your doors are locked? Yeah, in his grand jury testimony is when he said that. Yep. Link handing her the Celebrate report was ridiculous. I think it's a lot of anger and diversion. No way dog didn't wake them if the lights and the screaming didn't. Wait, what exactly are we looking for in Miss Albert's testimony about Higgins? The only thing here is that that she talks about that her husband called Higgins. Oh, what are you looking for? Oh, what I said. How she explains how Brian Higgins was parked by the ambulance. The words she uses to describe how he was parked out front. That's what we're looking for. How he parked his Jeep with his plow on it. Right, and they didn't want to go blaring through the neighborhood that was dark and quiet, wake everybody up. That's what we were looking for with hers. Yeah, after the funeral, a long drive from New York, a night out, a birthday party. He was waiting for Nicole around 2-ish. Too bad she fell asleep around 2:30-ish. Still good timing. But we don't know. Could be 5 minutes or so. I thought that Brian and Nicole's story about the donuts was a bit different. It is, because Brian says that Julie brought coffee. And all of us were like, what? What do you mean she brought coffee? Was she going to put coffee in Brian Jr.'s car and just let it sit there? And I don't know if he just thinks like Dunkin' Donuts, so he's thinking like that's where he goes as a cop to buy coffee. I don't know where he came up with coffee. It's always been donuts. Nobody's ever said coffee, except for him. For her to complete her ritual. So in his testimony today, he almost says the same thing. He says that Julie has a ritual, and then he changes it. He almost said ritual. I've heard it was open, but I never looked for myself. My voice is like going. It's like, why would you leave donuts in the car during a blizzard? Also, why would you leave the donuts in the car if you know the house is unlocked? Because they don't lock their house. Didn't Lolly say when she supposedly went in reverse that she just kept going in reverse down the street after? Again, Higgins' car is an issue. Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, you got to remember, originally they tried to say it was a 2-point, 3-point turn. Try and look all innocent. They would riot if Dunkin' was closed in Massachusetts. Chris remembered that other ritual with pizza. Yeah. Yeah, they have a ritual too. There's a lot of rituals. I'm like, I think you guys mean tradition. So he's on the stand, and they go over the family tree again. We've already gone over it. I'm not doing it again. That where he lives, when did he move, the family home, he was raised there. He was a Boston police officer for 30 years. He's now retired. Talks about that they went up to the funeral in New York. He had flown up there, but he thinks the flight either got canceled or he just knew it was probably going to be canceled. So he ends up riding home with Brian Higgins. They're friends. They socialize. They know each other professionally and personally. He meets up with Higgins at the hillside. So I guess I didn't put that in here. Higgins drops him off wherever his car is parked at a substation. So he goes and gets his Ford Edge, and then they meet up at the hillside around 9:30. They have a drink. He says they were going to stop and get food because it had been a long day, but then he says he didn't actually order food, but Brian Higgins did. I thought that was interesting too. I was like, wait, you said you're getting food, but only Brian ordered food. His wife had told him that they were at the waterfall, and so he decides to go there, and he tells Brian Higgins, like, hey, you're welcome to like stop by if you want to. He goes over who's at the waterfall, same people as we all know. He's only met John a couple of times. He knew he was a cop. He knew he was friends with Jen. He knew that he knew his brother Chris. But he'd only met him actually a couple times. But he would consider him a friend or like a guy that he could continue to hang out with. I was like, now you're trying to put yourself closer to this guy than you really were. You literally had met him a couple times. He'd met Karen about a week prior at Hillside because she was out with John O'Keefe. He did interact with John at the waterfall. He only remembers him wearing a baseball hat. He did not interact with Karen. He does think it was like a general invitation to anybody in the group. Anybody could come. It would have been totally fine. So this was Higgins' second time at his house. He doesn't even know if he actually went, if Higgins had been in his house that many times before, because the other time was for a graduation barbecue that was being held in the backyard. And so he doesn't even know if he ever went in the house then. He leaves Waterfall about midnight, and they go over the video. He says Higgins had a plow on his truck, and he skimmed the driveway for him. When he got home, his son Brian Jr., Brian Jr.'s friends Julie and Sarah, and it's Juliana, but she goes by Julie, and Colin, his nephew, was at the house. So Colin was on his way out when he got there, and he went and let the dog. He went to the bathroom and he let the dog out. And when he was done doing that, Colin was already gone. He never saw him again. So Colin says, yeah, I'm on my way out. And he goes and does his thing. He never sees Colin that night again. He says Jen and Matt McCabe arrive, and no one else comes inside. That's it. That's the last one. He also says he doesn't know where Higgins parked. Still want to see 24 miles an hour reverse on snow. Lexus, ain't that automated? I'm also curious why they talk about looking at the center console. Haven't figured that out yet either. He's trying to look like a sweet old granddad. He's like, look at him, just a nice guy. He's not even sure that his flight was canceled. He's like, if I remember right, like I think flight even may have been canceled, but we knew the storm was coming. So he says after Jen and Matt came in, nobody else came in the house. Nobody else was there. They talk about Chloe. She was a German Shepherd mix that they'd gotten from a shelter in Texas. When he got home, he let her out to go to the bathroom, into the backyard, and the backyard is fenced in. He says she was only out for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then she came right back in. I'm like, now that's some fucking memory on how long your dog was outside. Like, I mean, there's it's kind of a weird thing to remember, but I don't know. This is another big one that I think is going to come up later because we know from prior testimonies and pretrial hearings that he says that he took Brian Higgins upstairs to show him some photos of his son, Jack, who's in the Marines. Other than that, he didn't go upstairs. He just hung out in the group around the kitchen. Well, we know Brian Higgins has testified at the grand jury that he never went upstairs. So I'm not sure what's going to happen when Higgins takes the stand here. So as of right now, the jury's only heard, hey, I took him upstairs, wanted to show him some Marine Corps pictures. You know, I was in the military. Brian Higgins was in the military. I thought he'd like it. Hold on, let me see what you guys said. I was confused. They said that there was a doggy door, I think no, she said there was a security door. So like it's like a heavier screen door. So he asked her if there's like a slider or if it's a regular door. She says it's a regular door. And then with a storm door is what it's actually called, a storm door. So it's just like a heavy duty screen door. I don't think they mentioned a doggy door. If they did, I did not hear that. I'm going to say something dumb. Don't worry, I do that all the time, Paige, so welcome to my life. What if he felt weird going inside not knowing this house and went in the backyard to pee? Or he went over to that area where the bushes were to pee. I mean, it's possible. I don't know. He also said in our park. Also, when did the car change? It was a Ford to a Jeep. I missed that. Well, Brian Higgins has a couple of different cars, and they said that he had it was a truck or Jeep. I'm almost positive one says truck, one says Jeep, but don't quote me on that. And that's the one that had the plow. Because remember, the initial story was that he had to go and switch out his car, which is why he went to the Canton Police Department at 1:30 in the morning. He was going to go switch his car. But then they came out like, no, he was going to go there and do paperwork. Oh, then one of the stories was that they had called him and needed him to come in for something. But that's why they asked Good, like, did you call him? And he's like, nope. Well, I thought she said doggy door too. Maybe she did, and I missed it. Okay, a few of you guys are thinking she said doggy door. I did not hear doggy door. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Who deleted your console comment? Nobody. Sure, YouTube's trying to censor you, Scotty Skulls. I didn't hear doggy door, but that's another one. If somebody wants to go back and try to find the clip, what I heard was it's a regular door with a storm door. That's how I heard it. They haven't testified to it yet, but I heard there was vomit only on his boxers, not on his pants. I've heard two things. I've heard it was on his boxers, and I've also heard it was on his clothes. So, like, all of his clothes. No, YouTube just doesn't like Scotty Skulls. They're like, block that guy. Block it. I personally think they have tried too hard to state Colin and Tristan were not at the house after the waterfall. I think they are the ones being protected.
Yeah, the Tristan thing. Because remember, it was always weird. Like, if Tristan was with them at the waterfall, why did he then go at 12? Like, the whole thing was 12:15. Like, why did he then go? Where was he before he picked up Caitlin?
But he said Nicole's the one who testifies to that so far, and she says he went home to try to get a nap in before he had to go plow.
Well, she also said, and I'm not saying nothing other than this is what it said because I went back to look at it, but the defense didn't bring it up and neither did the state, so it really doesn't matter. But in her interview, she said, she had met John O'Keefe once or twice out in a social setting. Nicole shared that she was aware that John had recently moved near her sister's home and only knew him as Kaylee's uncle. Recently moved near her sister's home. He was there for 4 years at that point. On the night of January 28th, Nicole stated that she met her sister Julie at the waterfall.
She met her sister Julie at the waterfall. Is that what you just sent me? Is that this document? I just pulled it up.
Yeah, that's her interview.
No, see, but Nicole is picked up by Julie at her house.
That's what she testified to today.
That's what Julie testified to as well.
Yeah, but that's what Trooper Proctor and I. So this was Buchanan that wrote this.
You just noticed your superhero.
Oh, is he happy? I had it last time too.
Sherry, what did you find it on Law and Crime? You can tell me a timestamp. I'll just grab it. Bev's rule is only one can object. Right. So the one that's objecting. So that's how you can tell who's going to do the cross. Whichever attorney you hear doing the objections during direct will be the attorney that's doing cross. So only one will object, but they've assigned it where you'll know that that's the one who ends up doing it. A law and crime 243. Oh, I was like just a few minutes away from it. 24346. Okay, we'll start here.
I think he might have pulled up to our house before us. But we got out of the car and went right into the house. So I assume he just came in, basically around the same time.
Do you have any idea sort of what Mr. Higgins was driving that night when he came to your house?
I believe it was a Jeep.
Do you have any idea where, in reference to your house, where Mr. Higgins parked?
I'm not sure. I thought it was out on the curb facing up Fairview, maybe by our mailbox, but it could have been in the driveway. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, facing up Fairview. So she probably meant like
And
towards
at
Chapman.
some point after you.
Okay, sorry. I missed it because now my daughter's texting me, who's supposed to be at open gym until 8 and telling me there isn't open gym. So let me go back. I missed what she said. Sorry, you guys. I know you guys are like, I just heard it. I don't need to listen to it again.
I thought it was out on the curb facing up Fairview, maybe by our mailbox.
Facing
but it could have
up
been in
Fairview.
the driveway. I'm not 100% sure.
See? Wrong way.
Not something you were particularly.
Picking up, wasn't a huge mess.
So I
but I was
take
just
that to
looking at
be
the area, cleaning,
Chapman.
probably check the bathroom to make sure that was clean. Just my usual. I think he might have pulled up to our house before us. But we got out of the car and went right into the house. So I assume he just came in, basically around the same time.
Do you have any idea sort of what Mr. Higgins was driving that night when he came to your house?
I believe it was a Jeep.
Do you have any idea where, in reference to your house, where Mr. Higgins parked?
I'm not sure. I thought it was out on the curb facing up Fairview, maybe by our mailbox, but it could have been in the driveway. I'm not 100% sure.
Not something you were particularly paying attention to?
No.
Yeah, all right. Well, I don't know, because the way she said it made me go, wait a minute, is he facing like the wrong way? I don't know. I thought it was interesting. All right, let me know if you find the, if anybody finds the doggy door. I did not hear doggy door, so I don't think that one's that.
See, Buchanan is the one with all the wrong stuff because his report is also the one that says Julie told us that she was asleep at 4:55 a.m. on January 29th when her phone woke her up, and it was Jen's missed call, and that is how she found out about John dying.
Right. But they haven't addressed that in court yet. TNT, that's what we were talking about earlier. Like if you'd never heard anything about this case whatsoever at all, and you're sitting on the jury, and all you see is the Commonwealth questioning things that have nothing to do with anything at this point about how Karen did anything. We're 2 weeks into this trial that Bev wants to streamline. Okay, I'm going to run through this really quick because then I apparently have to go pick up a child that is not supposed to be home yet. Is there anything in here that is absolutely imperative that we need to touch on? The whole bursted into the room 6:30, exact same thing. But he talks about that they go into the kitchen, I believe. He knew Link, but they weren't friends. So cops are always welcome in his house.
This is
Link
what's
came back later. What?
This is the stuff that was interesting. Like he called Higgins because he thought he needed to know why. Why did he have to know?
Right. And he asked him, like, but he's not even aware of any relationship that Higgins is friends with John or friends with Karen or anything. Tell her to walk, ATS. I know. Like, no, I'm not even supposed to be picking you up yet. You're just gonna have to wait.
I need to look up the comparisons of what each said because I'll have to go all the way back to like Lank and Gallagher, I guess, because he said that they were sitting at the table, didn't he, when they came in to talk to him?
That's what I thought.
And Gallagher said when they first went in that they didn't even leave the foyer.
243:46. Is it right after that? All right, hold on. Nope, I went too far.
Did he come in around the same time as you, or did he come after or before?
Yeah, he came in the same time. I mean, I think he might have pulled up to our house before us. But we got out of the car and went right into the house.
Okay,
So I assume he
that
just came in, basically around the same time.
Do you have any idea sort of what Mr. Higgins was driving that night when he came to your house?
I believe it was
Was driving that night when he came to your house?
I believe it was a Jeep.
That's the wrong timestamp. That's the other timestamp. Oh, Sleuthy, you didn't have to just leave. You could have stayed. Sorry, I'm gonna go through it pretty quick because I think the biggest thing that they talk about is this. They take an hour, hour and a half to go through freaking everything about the dang house. They go through every photo, and he's taken forever. I'm like, he's totally trying to run out the clock here. But I think my interpretation of why this was important to the Commonwealth was because they're trying to show that there's no sidewalk with this. It's not a curb, it's a berm with this rounded berm. To show like maybe she didn't know. She Irish goodbye right there. Maybe she went up on this curb and doesn't even know that she did. They go over like the fence. They do all that. This was kind of silly. The other biggest part was that he felt that he needed to go over to Jen McCabe's house with Jen and hold on real quick, you guys. What's up? Okay, he's like, are you going to be getting her? He's at football with my son, so. What was I saying? Oh, why did he have to go to the house with Jen and Matt for Proctor to meet them there? So Jen and Matt were at Brian Albert's house. This was another really weird thing. How in the world, or why in the world, would Proctor not have just come there when everybody was already there? So she talks to Proctor while she's at Brian Albert's house. Her and Matt leave and go home to meet Proctor there. But then Brian goes with anyway? Why not just have him come there? So I don't know. That didn't make any sense to me. But that's the only time that they have talked about that any officers separated them to do any type of investigative interviews. Berm is a stupid word. Lana, that's exactly what I said. What did Lana say? Let me go up. Lolly missed the memo that Bev said no third-party culprit defense unless you open the door. So he should have asked all these witnesses, who is his boss? Well, we know who his boss is. Criminality, the drink for $8 was a single shot in soda or tonic with lime. Got it. A double would be 16. Thank you, Patty. Okay, you guys, I hate to rush the goodbye, but I've got to get out of here. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for hanging out with me on this Friday night. Go enjoy your weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms, all the single dads, and all the fur baby parents. I appreciate you guys. I know you guys have 1,000 other places that you could spend your time, and you choose to spend your time here with me. And you are absolutely appreciated for doing so. I will see you guys on Monday. Go have a great weekend.
Do you dare to fall?